Hello, people. New show alert. Welcome to a view from the South Stand. We're doing a Spurs monthly review. So stay tuned. We've got some good guests coming on for you. Haz is doing the introduction, but just wanted to say, welcome to the new show. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, get involved in the chat. But as always, come on, you Spurs.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to A View from the South Stand, where we bring to you a brand new show. This is your monthly review for February. From here on forward, we're going to be doing once a month. End of the month, we're going to be doing a monthly review of Tottenham results, any Tottenham issues, anything that's going on with the club. We're going to be discussing it at the end of each month. Now, you might have heard my co-host Marlon introduce the show earlier on. We have got some fantastic guests on the show tonight, and I'm looking forward to introducing them. So without further ado, we'll get everyone on the stream. First up is Gaz. He's new to the streaming world, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gaz. Are you a season ticket holder?
I am, yeah. I've heard.
And he's a season ticket holder. Get in there, right? So we'll have a perspective from someone who's a season ticket holder who can, give us a different perspective. And we'll look forward to talking to you in a second, Gaz. Next up on the show, Ashmatic. Ashmatic, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, my bro. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Great to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself, Ash. I believe you have been around, and where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on shows like this, man. I'm just a fan. I've been a fanboy since 6 years old. I'm now 37, so good 30 years plus. Go to games when I can, watch at home, you name it, man. If I can get a ticket, I'll get one and I'll come to a game. But yeah, that's pretty much me, man.
Excellent. And last but not least, we've got Johnny B. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Season ticket holder as well, since about 1987, so it's a long time. I work in football, work for the Premier League, a little bit, do football stats. So I love my football, love Spurs as much as I hate them every now and then. But yeah, season ticket, go when I can. But yeah, season ticket holder like Gary as well.
Excellent stuff. So we have got a few things to get into tonight. As I explained to everyone participating in the show, it's a brand new show. We are discussing everything that is Tottenham, all the hot topics, end of each month. This is the first one, so this is the pilot. So, without further ado, guys, first up is the results for this month. We've had a mixed bag, so to speak. but it's not been too bad on the whole. We've had some fantastic results against Manchester City. Our last two results, two London derbies against West Ham and then Chelsea back to back. Absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to go around in a different way. I'm going to go anti-clockwise. And Ash, what do you make of the results this month? I mean, I know Conte's not been there. He's been ill. He's recuperating in Italy. But Stellini's come in, and we've seen some major results. Started off with that victory against Manchester City, that 1-0.
Yeah, the results have been absolutely fantastic. They've been spot on. Performances have had the fan base split. When you're looking at the City performance, I think that was absolutely amazing. That was, heads and shoulders. That was like one of our best performances of the season. And when we look at the contrast between how we performed against City and then how we played against West Ham, if you're just talking about the Premier League, especially in the first half, it's head and shoulders. You can see the clear difference. And if you don't understand the tactics or if you don't understand the style of play, Spurs are now playing with less of the ball. We have like 50% or less possession. And when it comes to playing in our opponent's half, we don't really play in our opponent's half. We don't pin teams in. So we don't have like a high percentage of football playing in the opposition's half either. But however, we are quite a threat when we're quite clinical when we're in the final third. We don't create as many chances as our top four. However, against Chelsea of late and of West Ham as well, especially in the second half, we seem to be turning up and we're getting this nickname called Second Half FC, which I don't mind. As long as we get the results, I'm all for it. Do you know what I mean? So, results-wise, like back-to-back wins. Obviously, we played in Milan the other night and we didn't get the result we wanted. Performance was a bit staggered up and down. We had periods in the first half when we had the ball, when we were on the front foot, and then they had periods when they were on the front foot. We lost that game 1-0. But overall, I think 1-0, we would have been happy to go all the way 1-0 at least, because they had 2 to 3 big chances that they never put away. So coming back to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we're going to be under the lights with the fans, with the home support, with the crowds. And who knows if Antonio will be back for that game. But yeah, the Stellini effect, again, another talking point, because a lot of the fans, a lot of the people are saying that, Conte is very animated on the touchline. He's very passionate. And sometimes it almost looks like he's coaching from the sides. He's coaching. And some fans think, is that too much? Stellini's style is passionate, but he's not coaching as much. And I think the players might appreciate that a little bit more. And he's given responsibility and trust to the players. And it seems to be working now. We know Antonio came back for Leicester, which wasn't a positive result. Only lost 4-1. And since he's gone back, communication between Stellini and Conte and even Mason and the backroom staff, all in all, he's been calling him like 3 times a day in the match. He's been calling him. And obviously he's got a different perspective because he's at home. He's watching it slightly different. And so a lot of the fans are thinking, may this continue. When we played against Man City, I think it was less Conte. That was the narrative that was going around. And a lot of people were impressed with Stellini and Mason's tactics and little calls, little tweaks, especially with like Eric Dyer and the team doing man marking, pressing up a bit higher, knowing when to press as well, tactically being aware of the threats coming in from Haaland. I saw Romero did the number on Haaland, kept him really quiet. In the game against Chelsea, again, that was slightly different because we were very organised, especially in the second half. And Skip scoring that wonder goal as well in front of the South Stands, in front of the fans. As now all the fans were so proud. A lot of them were still in the cubicles, probably taking a piss or having a couple pints.
Yeah,
Didn't
absolutely.
manage to get back in time. They were upset. But guess what, man? That was a rocket of a goal. And he was very, very noble. He was very noble. He was like, I don't know. I just
It was fantastic, isn't it? I mean, I watched that goal back about 30 times today. I must have just rewinded, watched it different angles. He was very, he was very humble about it. He even said he caught it wrong, but the sheer power of it just took it past the goalkeeper.
It's the actual swerve and the flight of the ball.
Oh, it was
took
fantastic.
It past the keeper, and also Koulibaly blindsided the goalkeeper, so he saw it late, and that's why he got a fingertip to it. And credit to Skip closing down that player. What I liked in that second half was the tenacity, the catching the second balls. Waiting to get those second balls in. And he even mentioned in the first half they showed him too much respect. Second half, they said that they wanted to get on top of them, and they said they were working on shots. From outside the box, because they're not creating so much chances, and so when those chances come out the second time outside the box, they will practice that in their training ground. So credit to them, and it was well planned, it was well thought out, and man, I was really proud, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a fantastic performance, albeit against a very disjointed Chelsea team who, in my opinion, just haven't clicked together. And Potter's going for a really hard time at the moment. But I'll come to you guys. We can't overlook the fact that we beat Manchester City 1-0. And then we ended up losing 4-0 to Leicester. And, that was on the return of Conte. Conte come back, to take charge of the team. Some said he come back a little too soon, after the type of operation they had. It's not one that you can come back so soon from. It is having your gallbladder out is not a small thing. So what do you make of it all? I mean,
I just found that for me that this whole month has just been the epitome of everything that Tottenham is, right? Come bouncing into the month off the back of a great win away to Fulham, going through in the cup against Preston, 2 clean sheets. We've got a fully fit squad coming in City, first time all season, fully fit squad. Is this the moment that we're going to kickstart our season and really push on? We're going to put in a banging performance against City, win 1-0. Everybody's thinking, come on now, this is it. We're really going to push on. Within a day, Lloris is injured, probably out for the season. Next day, Bissouma's gone. You're thinking, here we go. Week later, you've lost 4-1 to Leicester. Oh, Jesus. And then Bentancur's gone. And suddenly you've gone from here to here. And it's just everything that is Tottenham. It's never a dull moment. Conte's on the sidelines, then it's not on the sidelines. But if we're talking about just results in general, I think when you've got a month in which you're playing City, Leicester, Chelsea and West Ham, you're looking at that, and I think you're sort of thinking to yourself, 7 points? Take that, probably take 7 points. And we've got 9, but in typical Spurs fashion, you've probably dropped the 3 points that you think you might get. So it's like, it's just this whole month has just been so typically Tottenham, and it's been brilliant in many ways. It's been really disappointing in other ways. The injuries, there is the whole Conte question that you mentioned about, and Ash has already spoken about the impact of Conte on the touchlines or not, and that's probably something that we may have to discuss more because there's validity to it. But on the whole, I think it was result-wise a positive month. I'd say we're probably 2 points up on what we would have expected. 3 clean sheets against 2 really good sides and West Ham, and I do count Chelsea as a good side. I think you have to. The AC Milan game, I think we're still in that tie very much, as Ash says. I think we're turning around in the second leg, and very soon we're going to be cementing 4th in the league as it is at the minute for the time being. Hopefully into the quarterfinals of the Champions Leagues, and hopefully tomorrow night into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. It's been a terrible season, though, they say.
Yeah, it's a different perspective you bring to it, Gaz, to be honest with you, because there has been a lot of criticism, especially with the performances that Spurs have put in this season. It's been really indifferent, but it's been really, lethargic, and, it's been dross, to watch Spurs sometimes been really difficult. But how it's happened, no one knows. We're sitting in 4th at the moment, fighting on 2 fronts and in a pretty good position in the league at the moment. But it's interesting you mentioned the fact that we've picked up results without Conte, and there is a correlation there. You can between sort of the players sort of being relaxed when Stellini's at the dugout. You can see it. I mean, you could probably see it pitch side. Johnny, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I just want to get Gaz's perspective of what he gets pitch side, because I can see it from the TV, right? You can see the players are more relaxed. They're playing the ball out from the back. There's less mistakes. And more noticeably, if they do make a mistake, they're very comfortable in trying to get the ball back. There's sort of less panic, if you know what I mean. I see that from the pitch.
I think you raise a really good point about the mistakes. A lot of the goals we concede come from mistakes that you just wouldn't wish to see down on the marshes on a Sunday morning. But it's been like horrific errors that have cost us dear, and there's been a lot less of that. Perhaps the players are a bit more relaxed. I think it feeds into, particularly in January, there was a lot of negative comments from Conte, even going into that game, against Milan, about, oh, I love Italy. Italy's great. Oh, everything's different in Italy. They do press conferences, everything. Just go to Italy then, mate. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. And I think it does kind of feed into the players. I don't know if we're probably talking more about Conte. My view on it is, if he wants to be here, I would want no other coach. But the vibes that he gives off, I think you're right, feeds into what we see on the pitch. And I think the players have been a bit more relaxed, and there has been a bit more of them going and expressing themselves and being free to express themselves. And possibly that's fed into the performances a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Johnny, I mean, you've heard everything that Ash has said, what Gaz has just said, what we've mentioned about the players. There has been that element of the players being a little bit more relaxed, and you can see it in their performances when Stellini's been in the dugout. Some would say Stellini is a proxy for Conte. Whatever Conte wants is implemented through Stellini. So, not much has changed, perhaps, but it's perhaps not been under pressure as much when Conte's not there. And like Gaz said, there isn't anyone else I would want at the club if Conte wants to stay. He's still a top manager. But have you seen the results this month? We've had 2 losses, one in Europe, one against Leicester, and we've had 3, especially the last 2, cracking results.
I've known Gaz most of my life, so I don't like agreeing with him, but I do agree with him. If some alien came down from space and said, right, show me what it's like to support Tottenham, you'd show him a video of Man City, and then you'd say, right, well, about 3 days later or 5 days later, this happened, an absolute car crash against Leicester, and you're like, that's what it's like to support Tottenham. And it's interesting that the one game on the Premier League game on the sideline, Conte was there and it all fell apart. Yes, these are Conte's tactics. Of course they are. Conte and Stellini are talking, and Stellini's doing what Conte is telling him. But Stellini is delivering, I imagine, the pre-match team talk, the half-time team talk. He's just calmer on the touchline. Imagine being a fullback playing with Conte on the sideline. He is kicking every single ball for you. And maybe it's no secret Emerson has improved since Conte's not been there. So there is something in it. Look, Conte's the manager. There's all this talk today that Stellini is going to be the one to get manager of the month. Yeah, maybe he should, but Conte is the manager. And if Conte does go, fans might want Stellini to stay. Stellini's not going to stay. He's going to go wherever Conte goes. So quite frankly, they're a double act. And as Gaz has said, and maybe Ash echoes, if Conte wants to be here, then stay in, muck in, commit, stop pretending you're doing us a favour, and like the end of last season, be happy. The players will be happy, and we'll probably get 4th. But if he comes back and is moping around, in my opinion, it will revert back to the poor performances at the end of January.
That's been the sentiment of a lot of people online, on socials and everything else. There has been the whole issue about the board not backing him enough with the players that he wants. Now, we can talk about the transfers because we've brought 2 players in this transfer window. January apparently is the hardest month to bring in players, but we've brought in Danjuma, and we've brought in 2 players this month. Do you reckon the 2 players that we've brought in this month is enough to push us over the line? in terms of where we want to be?
No, but we needed to fill this. Well, maybe I'm not sure the players themselves are, but we need a squad. We're looking at that bench, especially during injury crisis. Looking at that bench, going, I might as well have bought my boots because some of that bench was not good enough. So yeah, they've improved the bench. Dan Juma was a decent player. We've hardly seen him. Did well against Preston. Maybe we'll see him against Sheffield United. The squad needed improving. These players, in my opinion, are not going to be great Spurs players for the next 3 years, but the bench needed improving. And when you've got 5 subs and you're a big club like Tottenham, your bench needs to be good. And suddenly we can put Son on the bench and it not be a problem. So I'm hopeful that by filling out the squad, that's the positive. They're not great players per se. So we spent 40 million on Porro, and what's that's done is maybe kickstart Emerson. And you need that competition for places.
Yeah, absolutely. The bench needs to be strong. You look at all the other top 6 teams, you know, they've always got a replacement for someone else, albeit Liverpool's kind of struggling this season with having a transitional season by all means. But Ash, you know, I'll come to you with this one. I mean, Scarfy mentioned Conte's underachieving with this squad. Would you agree with that comment? You know, or would you say he hasn't been backed enough? Perhaps with a better squad, he could do better. We all know that Conte is the sort of manager that you need to bring the players that he needs to implement his style and tactics.
It's a good question. And I'm going to just play devil's advocate before I give my opinion. Now, Spurs had their greatest start ever under Conte. At the start of the season, we had our highest points tally. So if, you know, Conte can't manage this team or underachieving with this particular squad, that doesn't reflect from the table. Also, this time last year, we were either 7th or 8th in the league. We are 4th. We have scored 10 to 12 goals more than we did this time last season. What is going on? Is it that the fan base's expectations have risen, or is it the style of football? Because last season, when we did get past that Burnley period and we just started scoring buckets of goals, we're beating Newcastle 4-0, Everton 4-0, Aston Villa 4-1 or something like that. Norwich, we battered at the last game of the season. Son, Golden Boot. Harry
Arsenal,
Kane. We battered. Like, we were just playing sensational. We didn't have a lot of the ball, but guess what? We were just, our XG, our expected goals, I hate to say XG, but we were just smashing. We were smashing teams. And this season, stylistically, we haven't really been doing that. And that's why when the results haven't gone our way, and the fact that Arsenal are doing so well has not helped. Now,
Ash, do you not think the way? Just sorry to interrupt, mate. But the way we played last season, you bang on, mate. But is that sustainable for 38 games in a season? I just don't. We can't expect to counter teams to death and have our XG as the best in the league.
Well, you say that with you look at Klopp. Klopp had his style of football. His style of football was a Gurgen press. Was that realistic? They won leagues, they won titles, they won Champions Leagues, they won League Cups under that style. Relentless pressing.
They had a good
Is
defense.
that realistic?
They had a very good defense.
They had a very good defense as well, but that's what we need another window for defense, because we had what people call him, quote unquote, a stopgap on Longley. Yeah. But is that stopgap good enough? Is that stopgap quality enough?
Let's not forget, Ash, they, sorry to interrupt you, but let's not forget the fantastic defender that they bought came in January for 85 million. So, you know, if money's there, it's not deals can be made in January. There's no myth around we can't sign players in January. You know, if the money's right, you can sign anyone.
The thing is, we spent the whole window after one right wing back. The whole window. Forget Dan Juma for a second, because Dan Juma was a flash in the pan. No one saw that coming. He was going to Everton, and we just gazumped them at the last hurdle. So forget that for a second. The whole window, we were linked to a right wing back, right wing. And we knew as a fan base, we needed centre backs. Not one, two. One for Dyer, central centre back, and one for Longley or Davies as a left central centre back. We knew we needed to match the energy that Romero was giving us on that right hand side on both sides, because we had been woeful in defence. Going forward, we didn't have that problem. Coming back, we did have that problem. At the back end of last season, we had real good defensive quality. We like Dyer, he was getting the best out of Dyer. He was getting the best out of Ben Davies. But like on this side of the season, is that realistic? We needed to upgrade in that position, especially in summer. We got really excited because we were doing business really early, which is very unlike Spurs. We're normally lastminute.com, but for whatever reason, we started doing early purchases. So everyone got excited, the whole fan base, including myself. And then when it came to the important central centre back or a defender, we just didn't get that over the line. We didn't get those defenders in. Now,
we've kept 5 clean sheets in our last 7 somehow.
We have.
We haven't been making mistakes.
Also that might come from Lloris not being in goal. I think you said, Ash, or maybe Gaz, I can't remember who it was, talked about mistakes. Forster done well with his feet, and that helps everybody. Lloris can't play with his feet.
No.
Chipping the ball out to the fullback when Ben Davies has to win a header, and it doesn't work. So I don't know whether Forster has actually settled the back 5.
It could be a couple of things. It could be that. It could be communication as well. It could be like we've had a settled back 3, because for a long time it was Davies, Dyer, and Romero, and then it was Longley, Dyer, and Romero, and then Romero was injured. Don't forget, for long periods of the season as well. Romero has been out for long periods, and he's been since he's come back. Because remember, when the player comes back, they need a run of games. And when he came back from the World Cup, he was a bit iffy. He was like making mistakes. He wasn't being consistent. He was doing rash challenges up until the other day. And now, as soon as he's become more consistent and he's timing his challenges right, and he's pushing us up the field, all of a sudden, clean sheets are starting to appear. And that's what we had from last season. So I just wondered if it's the consistency of the back 3 and the stability. Because you want to know, if you're a centre back, you want to know you've got your left centre back and your right centre back, and you're communicating with them. They're going to be there next week and the week after. And then you have a pattern of play. And remember, with Conte's style football, we play from the back. We start from the central centre back. That's how it comes. You can either go long, you can go short. We can play at the back, tidy. It's different styles, but it all comes from the central centre back and how we progress from that position. We can go direct into Kane, and Kane drops into that hole. There's a whole switcheroonie Hollywood pass into Sonny or Richie, whatever. Or we can build play and pull it through Kulusevski and Royale and build up attacks that way. It's different styles of play how we do. But the 3 have to be consistent, and we hadn't seen consistency even with Lloris in there. And I go back to Gaz's point. It was just, we never had a stable team, whether it was even down to Bentancur being out, even down to what's it called? Kulu was out. We never, even Rich, our backup, our
injuries have been a joke this season. You look at them up the road. We've had no injuries. We've had
I don't think Kulusevski, Bentancur, and Romero, who are 3 of our key players, have played more than 2 or 3 games together this season. I mean, it's just, there hasn't been that stability throughout the whole season as yet.
This is it. And if you look, I'm a stats merchant, but I like to look at the players as well. And if you look for long passes, medium passes, short passes, you're looking at Romero and you're looking at Bentancur. If you're looking at most tackles made, you're looking at Bentancur and you're looking at Romero. And Royal not far behind. And the improvement that Royal has made as well on that right-hand side has helped the team, especially when it comes to transitions, pushing forward. Go on.
There's been a big tactical switch with Royal as well, where instead of coming down the outside and asking him to get them crosses over, he's coming in midfield. And you're seeing Kulusevski getting wider. And actually, I've seen that coincide. People have been critical of Kulusevski's form, but actually, I've seen, particularly against West Ham and the other day against Chelsea, I thought Kulusevski was starting to look more like himself, receiving the ball wide, breaking that first press from a wide position, and getting us on the front foot. And I think Kulusevski actually is better wider.
Wider.
And with Royale coming on the inside, it seems to have
The balance.
switched something. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to talk. Look, I don't want to spend too long talking about them up the road, but they've been doing it with Zinchenko. Pep's done that with mid defenders for ages.
Correct.
Making your
Done it with
fullback,
Rico Lewis, hasn't he? He's been
Correct.
doing
Lewis as
making
well.
your fullback another midfielder, which we need in there. A lot of fans have been crying out for 3 in midfield. He's
That's
kind
right.
of doing that with Davies and certainly with Romero. And right now it's working. I don't know why it's taken them so long to stumble across this, but it's working. And maybe because we haven't had the personnel available, but now it seems to be working.
Yeah, that's right.
Guys, I'm just going to introduce Jacob before we continue. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. Not welcome. Welcome myself.
Yeah.
Big up, Asthmatic. Big up, Gaz and Johnny. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you, bro.
I thought a big up from you there. Yeah, Jacob's from United Spurs of America. Those that don't know, he has his own channel. Streams obviously at an odd hour here because of where he is, but it's a very good stream nonetheless.
I used to accommodate. So on Fridays we used to do 7:30 p.m. in the UK time, and then as of late we've switched over just because of my wife's schedule. My job is a full-time father, so I'm basically just always on call for that guy. But Fridays we do. I think we moved it to 10:45. We start, so it's a little bit late on the Fridays now.
Fantastic. Yeah, go over to Jacob's channel if you don't know on YouTube. Type it in United Spurs of America. Fantastic show. Jacob, once again, welcome to the show. You've been listening to everything that we've been talking about just now. You know, the results in February. We'll go through it with you as well. Gaz, Ash, Johnny all made fantastic and valid points. We've had some fantastic results. Last 2, we've beaten 2 London clubs in West Ham and Chelsea. But then we've had really poor results against the likes of Leicester, where we've lost 4-0, and a 1-0 defeat to AC Milan. How have you seen February so far in terms of results and performances?
When did we play Fulham?
That was January.
January. It would have been tail end of January.
Okay.
Preston.
I mean, outside of Leicester City and I think AC Milan, I was still pretty impressed with the young kids stepping up and Oliver Skip and how I refer to him on United Spurs of America, Papi Matisar. So I think that he's got a bright future. Oliver Skip is showing more and more class. It's been interesting because injuries have depleted positions in which we felt, I think at least I felt coming out of the summer window, felt pretty good about our midfield, felt pretty good about our attack, felt not good about our defense, our center backs and our right back. That's always been really since. I mean, I didn't like the guy. I'm not saying he's good, but Serge Aurier, we ain't got it figured out since he left. We really ain't had it figured out since Kyle Walker left. But Emerson Royale's come good. We haven't really seen much of Porro, and that just, I think, speaks to Emerson. He's doing his job. He's doing something right. At the beginning of the season, everyone was like, okay, we've seen enough Emerson. Let's at least see Doherty or Jed, was kind of where everyone was at. And I was too. I was pretty much done with this guy. And there's reports like October, November-ish, I think, of him working on his game and spending millions of his own dollars just to improve a game. And, you know, to me, I said fair play. If that's true and that's not some like PR stunt, then fair play to you for doing that because I don't know. I just think that if you're going to go to that length, that shows me something about your dedication. And then it's either paying off in that end or the Pedro Porro's lit a fire under his ass. Who knows what it is? But either way, I don't think any of us are really upset about the defensive work. I still think his going forward could use some work. The passes into the ball, or the crosses into the box could be a little bit more quality. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not seeing much of your marquee January signing, I think that means the dude's doing his job. When you
Jacob, I can bring you here to Bobby K's comment from earlier on. Big shout out to Bobby K, by the way, in the chat. He says, so the £1 million Emerson spent to improve his own game was a waste. He needed an additional £40 million investment to improve, which is obviously Porro. Porro is amazing, doesn't even need to play and the team is better. Legend.
Doing his job, right? That's a masterclass signing. But I mean, if you look at last year, it's a stark difference. We signed Kulusevski, who I've recently nicknamed Hulisevsky, because who is this man wearing the number 21, and what did he do with Dan? And then I think with Bentancur, he's been he walked into this squad, been quality. I think last year he really struggled in a Manchester United game. I think he had a hip injury, if I remember right. He was coming back from a hip injury, or he
came off
he had
early.
sustained it, and then he played anyway in the United game. And that was like his only really questionable game last year. And then this year he's just kind of grown on that, more confidence outside the box, shooting outside the box. I think he was a little afraid to do that last year, but they just walked into the squad. Pedro Porro hasn't walked into the squad, and he cost more than both of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen much of Porro yet, but you know, we can't judge him on the one full game that he's had at the moment. He's
right. The Leicester performance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough ask of anyone. I think at
He should
January
never
signing,
have
especially
picked
coming
him,
from
Jake. He
Portugal.
should never have been in that team. Romero had been amazing. Emerson had been amazing against Leicester. He suddenly chucks him into this game.
I mean, City, and then Leicester.
Sorry, against City. He chucks him into
he was.
Leicester hate us. It's a little bit of a cauldron. Leicester, when they're on it, they can be fast and nippy. It was a bizarre, in my opinion, a really bizarre bit of man management to chuck him into that game.
A lot of people question that decision. I mean, it's fair to do that. But I mean, if you think about it, City, Stellini was in charge. He picked that squad. I know there's been this big debate. Is it Stellini? Is it Conte? To me, Conte said this when the first time he was out, the first time we saw Stellini take over, he said, number one, I trust Stellini to pick the best 11 and to make the right substitutions because he works with the players every day. And number two, if the man's saying that, and we're seeing a difference of play when he's managing the game throughout. I mean, you could say what it is. The first 45 is what it is. It's kind of been the same with Stellini or Conte. But the second 45, halftime adjustments, in-game substitutions, and tactically like changing things at that point, I think we saw in the West Ham game was a little bit different with Stellini in charge. This is what I've been saying. I hope y'all jive with it, but I think it's Conte's kitchen. He owns the knives, the tools, the ingredients. He makes sure the food trucks come in to bring them the ingredients to make all the. But at the end of the day, the person who's been making the pies that everyone's real excited about is Stellini. And make that world
when he comes back.
To be fair, guys, see that Leicester game? Leicester game, we started not just with Porro, but we changed. We had Tanganga as the right centre back. There was no Romero. So it wasn't just Emerson missing, it was Romero as well. So that whole right-hand side, if you noticed, they had Barnes, Maddison coming down that Dewsbury Hall.
They overloaded that.
They knew to overload that side because they knew that side was going to be a weakness. So I just think
there's no way Harvey Barnes is that good, right?
You can't just isolate now. Barnes he's good.
He's decent.
But he's not. There's no way he's that good. I've never seen this man run through defense like he ran through Jack.
Dewsbury Hall's a good player.
Yeah, but
maybe I need to step my game
up. Madison
I just don't rate a lot of
Leicester
Leicester players. I don't know
why.
why.
And then also, if you look at the first goal, Mendy, Perisic was on that side. Perisic didn't come and close down Mendy quick enough.
Perisic has been awful.
Defensively, he was shocking.
A liability.
So it wasn't. We can't just say Pedro Porro. It was why was he like he was? There was loads of players that never showed up that game.
It was a really bad day, wasn't it?
We had an awful day at the office.
Yeah, where was Ken? Where was Kulu? Where was everybody?
Exactly.
And yeah, actually, at 0-0, we had the best chance. Leicester didn't actually start to play until they equalised, which was a gift of a goal. At 0-0, we had a great chance. Then we went 1-0 up, and at 1-0, we also had another great chance when we were through, fluffed it. So even as bad as it went, we had the opportunities in the first, 10, 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Yeah, because even
really
Perisic,
good opportunity to put that to bed. Perisic was one. There was another one as well at 1-0. But I think the point you make about Tanganga, I think the point you make about Tanganga, you're throwing Porro into his Premier League debut away from home against, I think Leicester in a false position. They're a much better team than they're showing. I mean, they've just gone out the cup, but they're a much better team than they're showing, and they're in a false position. So you throw a guy into his Premier League debut away to them. and fortunately you've got Tanganga behind you, it's not going to fill you with a huge amount of confidence, unfortunately. And,
honestly,
I don't want to speak bad about Tanganga because I like the guy, but he's not at the level, is he? He's not at the level.
No. He hasn't really had a run of it, though, fairly. I mean, if you think about it, when Nuno was in charge, he pocketed Sterling. I think the second match, I don't remember who it was, he pocketed him. I remember seeing all the memes. And, I mean, you could argue the same thing with Sessegnon, which I'm not going to argue that for Sessegnon. But I don't know. I don't think Tanganga's as bad as his rep is necessarily. How often can you really take a crucial piece out of a back three and have it work with attacking wing backs that are also asked to do defensive work? It's just, to me, it's going to be hard for anyone to. I mean, we see it with Sanchez. We see it with any center back on that right hand side when Romero goes out. Who steps up? Nobody.
Well, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure. But against Milan, Dyer suspended, so someone's going to have to step up.
Absolutely.
Well, the central is a little different, I think, in my opinion. I think Longley could play that. Davies could do a fine job.
Probably Longley coming into the middle against AC Milan, as he's played there. He's got more experience.
Yeah, but that means you've got to then change it again.
And you've got to put Davies back to the centre back.
I'll just play Sanchez. I'll just put Sanchez in the middle and say just head it and run.
Honestly, I think Sanchez is a better athlete than Dyer. I think he's defensively better. I think going forward, you could argue is a push. I would say the only thing is they both can offer you the chance of they might score on our own goal. That's just kind of I expect
concentration. That's what it is.
Yeah, the lack of focus.
He switches off. That's what causes problems. In the central centre back, you can't switch off.
You have to be the guy. You got to be the guy. And you can't be the guy doing what you did in Leicester, which is blocking. First of all, I played keeper all my life. So I'm in the goalkeepers union. I'm always going to defend the goalkeeper, whether it's Hugo or big man Forestry. I believe Leicester was his first Premier League start. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So when you got your guy who's supposed to be the leader, who's been at the club damn near 9-10 years, he's supposed to be the guy controlling things. He's blocking your line of sight with Iheanacho, and you're like, surely he's as a keeper. I'm thinking, surely you're going to close him down now. Now you're going to close him now, and then the ball's going. And you're like. I was hoping you'd do something other than block my line of sight of the shot, so I blame Eric Dyer for that. But
I mean, look, I don't know what everyone's opinion is on Eric Dyer. Yes, last season, tail end, he did perform admirably, but for me, I think we need to be a step above from the likes of Eric Dyer. Don't get me wrong; he's a fantastic person. But in some ways quite limited in terms of whether he's a world-class centre-back. He's just not that world-class centre-back. He's, his concentration levels at times in crucial moments, in big games, for me, is not what we should be looking at. We should be looking at bigger players who thrive under that sort of pressure. I mean, I don't know what your take is on it. I'll start with Johnny, but what's your take on Dyer? Do we need to upgrade him?
Yeah,
do we go ahead and give him a new contract?
Well, I wouldn't be so against keeping him. Again, we need a good squad, but I wouldn't have him as your linchpin central defender. We need to go out there and buy a proper ball-playing, strong, solid centre half. Everyone goes on about Gvardiol. I don't think would. Well, look, if we get in the top four, we might get him, but we never seem to get players we've been linked with for a long time. Dyer can be, to answer the question bluntly, Dyer can and should be upgraded, I think.
Absolutely. Gaz, what's your take on it?
I kind of agree. I mean, Dyer, if you're going to be a serious team that wants to win the league, for example, you're not going to do that with Eric Dyer as your centre back. At the same time, there's been a lot of sort of displeasure with the talk of a new contract for Dyer, but I think we need to be realistic and you need a squad. And Eric Dyer is a kind of perfect player to have in the squad because he's good and he might not argue about being a squad player. And I think you'd do well to get a better guy to come in than Eric Dyer. The one thing that's always upset me is that he counts as a foreign player.
Yeah,
it kills me every time. He takes a foreign spot in the squad, and that's the only reason I might say.
I thought the only reason we kept him around was because he was English.
No, he counts as a foreign player. It kills me every single time.
Get him out of here.
But that's it, isn't it? If he was homegrown the new contract and the squad place is a no-brainer, right? It just is an
Kind of Javid
absolute
Tanganga,
no-brainer.
right?
Yeah, but Tanganga's nowhere near as good as Dyer. And again,
Well,
I don't want to.
the reason why he's kept around rather than
Yeah.
loaned out.
I know,
or
absolutely.
shopped
That's the
was-
reason. Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
homegrown. We need these players, and that's one of the reasons that Sessegnon won't get sold either. I would imagine, and we're persevere with him. Thankfully, we have Udogie coming in. But yeah, on Dyer, regardless of the homegrown issue, I think he deserves a new contract. I think he should get a new contract, but we need to upgrade, and he should be somebody that is on the bench.
Fair enough. And Ash, what's your take on it?
Eric Dyer. Okay, let's talk about his mobility.
Break it down.
I should have
Ash is going to go in. Ash is going in.
Woo! All right, so
I've got a pen and
basically,
pad here, so I'll break it down for you.
he doesn't have what I call lateral movement. So he can't rotate, he can't move, he can't get sideways, he can't. As a central centre back, as a defender, he's not very like our friend Jacob was saying. His athleticism isn't quite there, and his ability to sense danger as a central centre back. If you haven't got the pace, then you need to be able to anticipate what to do before it happens, or where to be positioning before it happens. Defensively, I'm talking about.
Romero's
And I
class,
remember Poch himself didn't want him. He didn't want him. He was a backup. When he was playing in midfield, he put him in as a centre back because we were trying to back three at the time. And the reason why we used Eric there was because he was like a more of a ball playing centre back, which he is, which makes sense. But when it comes to like closing down, you expect your defenders to block shots, minimum block shots. He's not front footed. Like it's very nervous. It's like he's caught in two minds a lot of the time. So that is very costly for a defense, for a team. What he is good at is shouting, blah, blah, your fault, blah, 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 blah. You will see him shouting, oh, no. That's what he's good at. But I think he's in the team because like Mourinho really liked him. Conte seemed to love him because he's multilingual. So he's good at talking Portuguese, Spanish,
but if you're talking
English.
shit, it don't matter what language you're talking. If you don't know what the hell you're talking about, if I'm in a kitchen and I'm speaking Spanish with all the workers, you know what I'm saying? Like, I may be talking about ingredients, but they're like, all right, what you want me to do with it? You know what I mean? I don't know. I do see what you're saying, though, Ashman. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're so right, Ash. You're so right, because twice against West Ham, the ball's sort of 50-50 of Antonio's, who's to get there first. And twice, when we were 1-0 up, he backed off. And you could hear the crowd in the stadium. You know, none of us are professional footballers. We're all going, fucking go and tackle him. And he did it against Chelsea as well. He backs off, and they get a cross in.
He does.
If they score from that cross, we are livid with him. He's got away with it a couple of times. You're right.
Yeah.
Look at Romero, who's pushing his own players out of the way to go and win that tackle. I know they're not the same player. They're not the same player, and they'll never be the same player.
Iheanacho goal was a great example of what Ash was saying, where he backed off, he turned sideways, he didn't play him onto his weaker foot, and he just allowed him to take a shot. Now,
something
for me, a defender with, common sense, a bit of tactical nous, who's, as a top football club, you'd study the players that you're going to play against. Conte would say, right, he's right-footed, show him onto his left foot, close him down, etc., etc. No, he backed off, and we created our own problems. And this is what I'm saying. This is what sets apart world-class from good, or elite from good. Just quickly, big shout out to Phil P, who's in the chat, by the way. Shouting out, woo! Nice to have you in the chat, mate. So thank you very much, Jacob. I can't do it, but thank you. So this is what I mean. I mean, it's very divisive. There are people who are in support of Dyer, who think he deserves a new contract. He should be in the team. Gaz, I'm kind of inclined to side with you, sort of 50%, in terms of if he's going to be offered a contract, it should be on the basis that he'll be a squad player and that there'll be someone coming in that's 100%. Going to take his place. 100%. But, for Dyer, it should be, look, we're going to give you this contract, but you're going to play your part as a squad player.
I think if Dyer gets a new contract and he's starting as centre back next season, we're all screwing, right?
if he gets a new contract, whether it's 3-4 years or whatever it is, whatever the terms are, and he's our number one centre back, then it's shambolic, and that's on the club and the board.
Yeah.
But enough on Eric Dyer. I mean, we'll sort of know where we stand with Eric Dyer, but I want to move along onto this chap, who is our record-breaking goal scorer, Harry Kane. Harry Kane broke the record this month, and he's now the club's all-time top scorer. Jacob, I'll start with you. I mean, where would you put Harry Kane in terms of his status at the club, in terms of the greats, your Jimmy Greaves, your Hoddles, and everything else? Because what he's achieved is absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, the fact that you could look at it on a few different levels, and I think I might not be one of the first people I would recommend to ask about as far as like how long or comparing him to players from before my time, because to be fair, they didn't really show Premier League when I was growing up. Premier League wasn't a thing on TV. You had to like know a guy. You had to go to one of the delis down the street, if you know what I mean. So I don't know about in comparison to a lot of those guys, but in comparison to what I've seen, I've always argued that he's the best striker in the world. He's the best striker I've ever seen. He's a complete package. The only thing he lacks, and I mean, people say this about, everyone. There's always someone's got their ugly thumbs, right? It's a reference to Megan Fox. Like, she's so beautiful, but her thumbs are kind of ugly. So it's like Kane, his thumbs would be his free kicks. I think his free kicks would be the one thing that you could really say he's not good at.
57 Premier League free kicks, 1 goal, and that took a massive deflection and went in.
The Southampton, I was like, has only one, right? Villa.
So you're right. Yeah, that's it. That's the only thing you can label on the guy.
But I mean, also on the Premier League level, to score over 200 Premier League goals is an achievement in its own, because that just speaks to the level of consistency to do that, to still be in a contention race to break the all-time record. I mean, it's not out of the question. In 3-4 years, he could break that Premier League record, all-time scoring. So I would love to see it. To me, he's the best striker in the world, best striker I've ever seen with Tottenham. So really, he's been the striker since I've been following Tottenham. So at that point, I think Jermaine Defoe is like the next best, maybe.
Berbatov.
Jermaine Defoe, interesting. Okay.
I like Jermaine Defoe personally.
Past and present, like a cool guy. I like it. Yeah, imagine if we had Defoe and Kane playing together, in their prime, absolutely lethal. That would be. Johnny, Harry Kane, where would you put him? I mean, once again, this guy is proving, to be the difference in how we're performing in the league and everything else.
Just an absolute behemoth, right? As Jacob says, possibly the best centre forward in the world. I mean, Lewandowski's maybe coming down a little bit. I think as 9s go, Lewandowski's probably the best. But what is Kane's, like a 9.5, or is it 10? He can do everything. And people go,
what about Benzema? So I've been blasted on Twitter about Benzema. Anytime I talk about Harry Kane being the best in the world, it's always, what about Benzema? What about Benzema?
Look, Benzema is amazing, but he's not a passer like Kane. And people go, Kane's not won a trophy. So what if Kane wins 1 League Cup? He's suddenly a better footballer. That's just bullshit.
Can I just say, Johnny, before you go ahead, Benzema has been playing in arguably one of the best teams in the world.
Exactly.
His entire career. For Harry to do what he's doing in this Tottenham team, I mean, it's levels, isn't it? Let's be honest.
That's what I was going to say. To people have a go at Kane. He's not won a trophy, so he can't be labelled good. But actually, spin it the other way. He's been playing for this team that's never won anything, and he's still banged in 268 goals. My dad goes on and on and on about Jimmy Greaves, and I actually said to my old man the other day, if you picked your greatest Spurs 11, and you had to have a centre, let's say you had to have Teddy Sheringham, he's bought his place and definitely his, or whoever it might be, you had to pick one of Kane or Greaves, who would it be? You could only pick one of them. He said, I've got to call you back. It took him half an hour, and he phoned back, he went, I know I've spoken about Greaves forever and ever and ever, but I'd pick Kane. because he just does a couple more things that Greaves didn't do. And my old man who's gone about Kane for 42 years I've been on this planet, to say Kane kind of says it all, really.
Yeah, I mean that's huge. I mean, obviously your old man seeing Greaves play, he can sort of compare the two.
Yeah.
So for him to turn around and say Kane, it's absolutely massive and just shows you how good a player Kane is. Yeah, fantastic. Gaz, what's your take on it? Kane, best player you've seen at the Lane?
Yeah, I think.
Apologies. I do got to run. Gaz, it was nice to meet you. Asthmatic, it was nice to meet you as well.
Thank
Johnny
you very
B,
much, Jacob.
as always, a pleasure.
Excellent.
Gonna have to have y'all on the Friday show at some point. How's you got to make your debut? Gaz, Johnny, Asthmatic, y'all welcome as well. So
sure, man.
You drop me a message anytime and I'll be there.
all right, brother.
Likewise,
Sounds good, man.
Thanks
again for having me. Sorry it can't be longer, but if we're doing this thing next month, hopefully I can get that day just booked to myself. So I do apologize for the tardiness and for the early departure, but pick up the last.
Make sure you go to Jacob's channel, by the way. Subscribe to his channel. It's absolutely fantastic. Good content. Jacob, we'll see you on the next one. And
absolutely.
Yeah, have a great evening.
Come on, you Spurs. Hey, let's go pluck some cherries tomorrow, right? It's tomorrow, right? Let's go pluck those cherries.
Why not?
Come on, you Spurs.
Take care.
I think there's an interesting debate on Twitter about who Tottenham's greatest ever player is. Is it Hoddle? Is it Greaves? Is it Kane? And my take on it, and I've thought about it since, and it remains the same. You could argue who's the most talented, probably Hoddle, but there isn't a single person in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club that has contributed more goals and assists, that has done more on the pitch than Harry Kane. That is indisputable. He has to be Tottenham's greatest all-time player. There is nobody that has done as much as he has for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club on the pitch. It is as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, my next question is, are we lucky to have Kane at this moment in time? Because we all know the saga with Manchester City, where it was reported that he had a gentleman's agreement. We all know, he could probably have his pick of clubs, but at this moment in time, are we thankful to Kane for sort of sticking around and being so loyal?
I think
Gaz, go on.
No, go on, Ash, go on.
Sure. Ash,
you guys are too polite. Hey, listen. I don't know. Is it a hindrance that Kane is so good for Tottenham? Because everything now goes through Kane. And at some point, we are going to have to live without Kane. It pains me to say it. Now, we could let him go this summer on 100 mil, or he doesn't sign a contract, it goes for another year, and then he walks away for free. Either way, there's going to be a point when we have to let go, and the team has to work without this Class A, world-class superstar in Harry Kane. That is a boyhood academy that keeps breaking on records, and the boy keeps on giving. For me, it's hard. It's hard. Harry Kane, as a player, there's a lot that doesn't get shown on our TV screens. When he gets the ball, he does something that you might see Xavi or Iniesta or Busquets do. They do this thing where they scan. They scan the pitch before they receive the ball. That allows them to make better decisions. This is the reason why he's had so many assists, key passes, how he's able to drop deep and collect the ball and find players like Son and gave Son a golden boot. He's like, here you go. I don't mind. You can have it. And he was happy for him. The type of character Kane is as well, the type of leader he is in the dressing room, that is so hard to replace. And it's one of those things where Kane has got not only positioning awareness, he can get on the blind side of defenders. So his movement is top class, it's world class. But he can finish with his left foot. He can finish with his right foot. He can pin centre backs. He can bring other players in. He can drop in between the lines, between defence and midfield, and bring your wing backs into the game. He, like I said, his first touch, no one's got the touch. Maybe Son, but no one's got a touch like Kane in our team. And he does the 10 role and he does the 9 role. And he's kind of made it of his own. Where now Haaland is like, wow. Pep's like, look at him, the top scorer in the league. He's Pep, the master Pep. He's like, look at. I want you to be like him. Do you understand? Because guess what? When Haaland ain't getting a service, I mean, I'm not saying like he's like what more is to his game? He hasn't really got much more other than running in behind. He's powerful, he's strong, he's physical. Yes, so is Kane. But Kane has got to be now the modern day striker. What players look up to, what other coaches are trying to emulate with their strikers. And so I've gone off a bit in a tangent here, but yeah, basically, I think we can move on without Kane. It's going to be hard, but I do remember a season where it was a Champions League season and we made it to a final. Yeah. And that was with the rise of Son and Mora. And sometimes when your talisman's not there, other players have to
find new ways. You've got to find
new ways. And that might help Tottenham. You don't know. We might be relying on Kane so much that maybe it might be a time that we start learning to play this way. Because certain teams have figured out that, all right, Kane's going to drop deep. All right, Kane's pulling to his right. He's coming into the half space. All right. If we like against Leicester, their central defender, boom, banging on him, clapped on him before he could get his first touch off and turn and do the pass. That people were strategizing. So
Milan did that. Who's the guy?
And the ref didn't book him. If the ref booked him, it changed everything, but he didn't do it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You're right.
He needs protection. I agree with that. Kane does need protection. But this is what I'm saying. So this is why we have to be like last season and the season when Mourinho started it. Teams weren't really wise to it, and that's how we used to rip teams open. Remember that team when Son scored 4 goals against Southampton, and Kane was every time he was on the ball, he just knew where Son was. He had like a heat seeker on his boot and found him.
After the West Ham game, Barney Running in the Guardian wrote, when the ball bounced off like Bonner's head before he passed to Son, that Kane's internal radar was already beeping, and he knew where Son was. And I was lying in bed that night, and I was reading the article, and I was like, in a few years' time, like you said, this isn't going to happen. When in the stadium, on the telly, whatever, when that ball dropped to Kane and you saw Son, you knew that the pass would be perfect. And whether Son scored or not, you knew the pass would be perfect. We've been so blessed with that for the last 5-6 years. It's not going to last forever. We're going to have to find a way. Whoever leaves first, Kane or Son, whoever it is, if they leave at the same time, it sounds awful. You know, it feels like a part of you will go, but this club will last. Just gonna have to find a way. I don't know who it will be. I don't want to think about it. But
I'd like to think that Kane stays until he's 36, 37, coming off the bench and not starting.
Let me tell you,
off the bench, and we find the way. But Kane sort of helps somebody else integrate. And my dream is that, you know, hopefully before his last game, but certainly if it is his last game, he's lifting some major.
Right. Well, I'm going to name drop now.
We can I'll just be in tears, man.
Go on, name drop.
We all hear
Johnny.
Right, so I was working with Robbie Fowler yesterday on our show. We did a big show on strikers, great strikers. Yeah, I just picked that name up off the floor. But it's interesting because Robbie Fowler won a lot of trophies. And I asked him, we were talking about Harry Kane, and I said, if he never wins a trophy, but you win, you know, he's an all-time Premier League scorer, will that be enough for him? He said, look, I can't speak for him, but for me, it would be enough to be recognised as one of the greatest Premier League strikers of all time. I couldn't care less if I didn't win 1 League Cup or 1 FA Cup. And I think that Kane wants that record. He wants that record more than he wants a League Cup. And I think strikers who just want to score goals. Look, he's had chances to win cups. He's been in semi-finals and finals for us, and he hasn't scored or stepped up in some of them too. I do think he will stay for that reason. He wants the record. Where could he go? Newcastle? Nah. Man United? Yes. Should probably buy him. But as Gaz says, I think he stays. I think he stays till he's 34. And it's interesting hearing other strikers just say, strikers are so selfish. They just want goals. And that's what he does. I think he wants to win a trophy, but I don't think it eats away at him like people think it does. Oh, he's got to win a trophy to be recognised as good. Bullshit.
I just personally think, as fans, we just can't be naive and privy to the fact that it's a possibility, and we just have to get ready just in case things do make a swift change, because the Premier League has so much money in it that at the drop of a hat, if United want to make their next step, like you said, United are like the most likely destination for him. And if they for some reason they think, Weghorst is not really, I don't know if he's the striker we need. And then, Kane's coming towards the end of the.
But how much would they spend? Because United haven't got that much money at the moment. They're going to drop 80 million quid.
Well, this is the reason why there's talks of investment in the club and potentially being sold in the summer.
Bro, this is football. I thought Barcelona had no money, and look what happened.
But they pulled the 7th and 8th lever, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So it's you can never cut it out.
We've already started succession planning for Kane with Richarlison there, and Richarlison's clearly there on the basis that if Kane gets an ankle injury or has to sit out, you've got a guy that Brazil's number 9. Brazil's number 9. Is there. So when I talk about, Kane staying for 34, 35, you'd like to start seeing, not necessarily next season, I don't know how long Richarlison would stay around for, but somebody like Richarlison coming in and taking that weight off him and integrating himself into the team. And he's a guy, Richarlison, that's had a bit of criticism since we bought him because he hasn't scored. But I don't think he's played in his natural position, which is the 9. And so, life without Kane, what does it look like? Does it look like Richarlison? Could be a hell of a lot worse, but hopefully it's not a conversation we really need to have. Hopefully Kane stays for his career and he lifts a number of trophies for us and breaks every single record there is going and actually gets the recognition that he deserves, as well because he's won trophy, but just as well because even today I was watching a YouTube video of him going to a school and the kids were just like, that was done today. The guy is just a national treasure off the pitch. On the pitch.
No, he's not though. He doesn't get the respect that he does.
That's what I mean. Like, I hope he gets that. He should get that. He deserves that.
In a private group about, there's a lot of players out there who, they're always in the headlines for the wrong reasons. But Kane is one of those players who's always, he steers clear of that limelight, steers clear of the tabloids. And yet he receives so much criticism and so, people put him down all the times because of his speech impediment and this, that, and the other. And I just think, good guys always, they always seem to get more hate than players they're actually, getting bad headlines. But it's a shame. And like Johnny said, he is a national treasure. He is absolutely fantastic. And he should be the epitome of a role model for any young kid up and coming that wants to make a career in football or in any other.
I think that drives them on, to be fair. I think that's I reckon that anyone that talks smack about Kane, anyone that puts disrespect on his name, anyone that speaks his name, he's the type of player that he thrives off a challenge. Remember, he was called the one-hit season wonder. And even when he broke the record, he brought it up. Yeah. So that's still in his brain. That's his motivation. Yeah. He loves the doubter. Yeah. He loves being an underdog. And I think when the pressure's on, he's the type of player that thrives off. And I think Richarlison is the same as well. Richarlison came from a broken home. He come from the favelas. He come from Brazil. And his dream was to play in the Champions League. He achieved that. When he scored and he went up to his dad, the emotion that came off that guy, you could just tell, even against the Chelsea game, when he got called off in that last minute, he was so upset with himself. So upset. You could just tell the guy just wants to get the monkey off his back. He just wants to score for Tottenham Hotspur. He's so passionate. And the way he defends, that's one thing I'll say, the difference between him and Son. Son does defend, he does press, but guess what? Richie is physical. He's a bully, he's in your face.
He almost got aggression.
Son
he almost got Ziyech sent off. Remember that. He almost got Ziyech packing. That was him. He was in the mix for that. He was the reason. He's the one that got challenged for that. So he's just a player that's always in your, even the penalties, like that penalty appeal at West Ham when the guy handled it. He was in that mix. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Every attacking opportunity that we had when Højbjerg hit the post, he was the one that linked up, did the 1-2, came to Højbjerg and hit the post. Even when it came to the corner that Kane eventually scored from, it was Richie's persistence on that right-hand side. He was the one that got the corner. He won the corner. He was doing challenges. You know what? He got the most amount of ground challenges between him, Royale, and Romero. Those were the three that had the most ground challenges.
I'm loving your stats, Ash. You might have to come work with me. I'm loving it.
I'm telling you, his tackles are up there. He had more tackles than Dyer, and Dyer's meant to be a centre back. So that just tells you, and I know a lot of people they want to see his goals because obviously that's as a striker you got to do your job. So people call him out, but he knows that, And that's another thing I like about Spurs players. We got that when we were in that second half, and we kicked off, everyone was biting. I love when Tottenham remember when Pochettino installed that in us. We had that kind of that fire in us. No one wanted to play Spurs because we were just nasty. We're not, and I like the fact we lost Dele Alli, but we got Richarlison and Romero, both players with tenacity and they got a nasty side and an edge to them.
If you're talking about shithousery, let's not forget Lamella but we've replaced it.
Yeah,
you said about Romero. Actually, Sterling didn't want to go near Romero because he knew he was going to get hurt. Players, Marlon, that tackle in the first half, he's done that for a reason. He's stupid tackle.
Let him know.
Marlon did not go.
You said it's a stupid tackle. I think they highlighted it on Match Today actually, and they made that exact point that it might look like a stupid.
Thankfully, it was only 3 minutes to go.
But fine. But they made that exact point that after that, Haaland. No interest, no interest at all. And he done it on Havertz as well. I mean, it was a poor touch, it was a loose touch. Fucking hell, he crunched through the geezer. Yeah. You don't want to go. You need shithouses like this up front. Richarlison putting his weight around, and you need that all over the pitch. And we've got a few shithouses now, and it makes a hell of a difference. A nasty, horrible team to play against. Great.
Yeah, because as well, I think it's it depends on the team as well. Sometimes when you've got a team and you know they're good on the ball, they're showing a lot of possession, they've got players that can do you in. Sometimes you need that to understand, let them know early. And then other times you might need a Son where the teams, they might come onto us, but then they leave a bit of space in behind. They're not as physical. Do you know what I mean? And then you can have your Sons. There's a time and place. That's all I'm saying. And I feel like the rotation had been missing, and that was the reason why we brought him in. Sorry.
Do you think what's been interesting is almost like I don't mean this disrespectfully to Richarlison, but Richarlison softens him up for 60 minutes. Game opens up, tired legs. Son comes
definitely.
on.
That's a very interesting take, Gaz.
Definitely. That's what I think.
I'm not saying that's all Richarlison. I'm not saying it's a battering ram. There's so much more to him than that. But I think he can really complement Son and help Son by letting Son come on with fresh legs against tired legs against defenders that have been battered and bruised and already at the point of fuck this, I just want to leave this game alone now. And then you've got Son coming on. I mean, can you imagine the defender now? Come on, get me off now. Get me off, Gaffer. Do you know what I mean?
Guys, talking about the tactics and everything else, that swiftly moves us on to the next subject, which is the AC Milan game. The AC Milan game coming up next week, I believe. Do we go with those tactics, Gaz? I'll come to you first. How do you see that one going? What do you reckon we should be looking at in terms of personnel coming in, especially with Dyer being suspended for the game as well?
I think it goes to the old adage, doesn't it? You've got to stick with the team that's doing well, and the team that's doing well at the minute is the team that's starting with Richarlison. Obviously, you're taking Dyer out because is it Dyer that's suspended, isn't it? So you've got that issue there. I agree with what we spoke about earlier. I'd personally bring in Sanchez because I think Davies is giving us that solidity and stability on the left that Royale's given us on the right. I'd stick with the team that's done really well against Chelsea and West Ham, and you've got to say really well because I don't think Chelsea and West Ham had a sniff really. I can't really remember either of them teams having a chance where you thought like the kid, he's had to save on Forster from distance, I think, against Chelsea. Outside of that, they didn't create a chance. So I think if we stay strong, we stay solid against AC Milan, it's like anything, with the players that we've got up top, we get a goal, maybe even two, and I think we're going to beat them. And without the away goal rule, we don't need to go. We need probably certainly two goals to go through. But it's not as if they score, we're out at the time. You need three. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd start with the team that we've had.
I wouldn't be surprised if he plays Perisic, which I think would be the wrong decision, but I think he will do it because he likes the Serie A experience, the Champions League experience. He'll feel that I've bought Perisic for these nights.
But form.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't. We've had our discussions about Perisic. To let you into, I loved Perisic for years and was banging on about how we should buy him. I think we probably bought him 3 or 4 years too late. But I think he'll bring him in and I think it'll be a mistake. Milan are a bit like us at the moment. we came into the game we've kept 4 clean sheets in a row, having been leaking goals for fun since the World Cup. So they've come into a bit of form, but I don't think they're that good. They've got a couple of players coming back. But if the fans are on it and the players are on it, I really feel we could beat them 3-0, 3-1 comfortably.
Like literally what happened with Milan was they were in poor form. They saw that they were playing Conte's system. They copied it. And then since then, they've gone on a 4-game unbeaten run.
Mm.
So annoying.
2-0 on the weekend as well.
So annoying. Literally, it's worked for them.
But our form's good as well, with
No,
the exception
I'm just
of
saying.
Leicester.
I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah.
I'm pointing it out. I just think personally, Leao, is it Leao, that the Portuguese black brother on the left? He is. When I was just impressed, tricky. I was just like, wow, the amount of take-ons, he was so successful. I just thought Romero off the back of it wasn't the Romero that we're seeing now.
No.
I think he was sloppy in an aerial challenge. He got underneath it, got beaten, and that led to the cross that eventually led to the goal. And I think Dyer again hesitant in 2 minds. Instead of closing down that space, he kind of let the space off, and it got crossed inside the box, and that's how they scored that goal. We haven't got to worry about that because he's going to be suspended.
Sanchez is better in the air than Dyer, is he not? So Sanchez playing against Giroud. All they did was cross the ball to Giroud anyway.
Literally.
They had that plan. The other one was, as you said earlier, the centre-back just wiping out Kane every time we got it into feet, and the ref did nothing about it. If the ref books the centre-back in the first 20 minutes, then I'm sorry, I think Kane's going to get more space. You're spinning in. I think as a crowd, we've got to be on the ref's back. If we see that in the first minute, if the geezer's going through Kane in the first minute, can't wait till the 3rd or 4th ref. It's got to be done that first time. Don't let them play to that game plan, because it kills us. And there's no reason for it. They were all bookings as well. But I didn't see much from Milan. Listen, Milan will be sat there saying we saw nothing from Tottenham that scares us, but I don't think we could play much worse, and I don't think I saw much from Milan that scares me overly.
I think Royale has to go in on Hernandez, their wing back. I think he was bobbing up and down our right-hand side, and he was very good. He was like their most forward wing back out of all of the players, and he was the one delivering in the crosses into Giroud. Remember, they had like 2 big aerial threat chances, which they could have easily scored. Even when their substitute came on, I forget his name because of a K, and he came on, he almost scored. They were all from that side. So I just think Royal needs to have a better game, switch on, and he has had better performances of late. So I think between him and Romero, they just need to basically just do a number on that side.
Enough, you mentioned him. He was the French fullback, I think, in the
That's
World
right.
Cup.
World Cup.
I thought he was
correct.
poor. I thought he was poor in the World Cup. And when the draw was made, I was thinking to myself, Kulu's going to have this guy. He's going to have him on toast. And Kulu he wasn't on it in San Siro.
He wasn't.
There's a few things going on. Like I said earlier, I think Kulusevski's form is coming back with him getting wider.
Yes.
I think if Kulusevski turns up and pins that Fernandes back, number one, that geezer at fullback's got mistakes in him, and Kulusevski could kill him. He really could. If Kulusevski's on form, he could kill him.
I mean, look, Theo Hernandez has got to be considered one of their major threats. I mean, going forward, I think he's got phenomenal talent going forward for a wing back. But yeah, you're right. I mean, in terms of defensively at the back, there is a couple of mistakes in there. Obviously, that's going to be for Kulusevski to exploit it this time round. But you've got to think again. They've got players like Origi sitting on the bench that they can bring on. They're a threat.
Yeah, for real.
Who come on, who missed the header, but he's a fantastic player that they've bought. And
what do you think of Perisic and Son situation? Sorry to cut you. What do you think? Because obviously, I see Son. Perisic is basically a winger playing further back, but he basically makes the runs in that wide position that sometimes I wouldn't mind Son being in and then maybe cutting in from the inside and shooting rather than just staying central all the time. I like Son to switch it up, sometimes be in the middle, sometimes be in the left and then come inside. But because Perisic is quite high and wide in that area, it sometimes takes away from Son. It doesn't give him that option to switch things up.
Look, the problem we've had this season, from what I can see, is Perisic is fantastic. He can put the ball in, he can whip it on a sixpence. But ideally, Son loved coming in from the left and cutting inside. It's harder for players to pick him up when he's coming in from that side. But where he's got to sit sort of in the middle and wait for the ball to come in, he gets picked up a lot easier and closed down. He's so much more easier to close him down, and that just isn't his game.
And just to add to that as well, I think like when Son picks the ball up, his first instinct is to dribble rather than to link up with his players. Like, Kulu will get the ball and he will do short passes with Emerson or whoever's on that right-hand side in that midfield. Or Skip, maybe. He might pass to Skip. Son kind of gets the ball and he just wants to run with it. He just wants to dribble all the time. And what's been happening is it's like players and teams have been doing their homework and they've been tackling them because they know he wants to come inside and dribble. He wants to come inside and it's easy to take him out of the team. Whereas if Son kind of mixed it up a little bit, did the short pass and then running behind, then I think he'll be a little bit more effective.
I think because Perisic is going wide on the outside, you've got Son coming into that sort of middle space that you're seeing on the other side, that half space that you're seeing sort
left side.
Royale on the other side. Now, what's happening as a consequence as well is Son's receiving the ball on the halfway line back to goal.
That's right. Correct.
Any time he gets it back to goal, I've got to tell you, I'm shitting myself because he's not strong in that position.
He's not.
He's not going to get his arse out. He's not going to hold him off. Do you know what I mean? You see Kane and Kulusevski do it.
Yeah.
Charlison do it. When it's going into Son, it's kind of, he doesn't want it there. It's not where you want Son. You need to be working him in behind. And I think the point you make about Perisic is right, because Perisic is running them channels. John, I think you've mentioned this to me before as well, and you've got a view on it, that exactly what you said, Ash. It works better with Davies there, weirdly. You know,
he does. And I think Longley as well, weirdly enough, needs to pass, because he's a left-sided centre-back. He needs to pass those balls into Son, so Son could run into that space. He can run, and when he's not getting that forward pass, then he's not able to run onto balls as much. And also you want players like Kane to do like what he was doing before and make Son do that little curve run. Like, I haven't seen that a lot this season. I haven't seen a lot of chances with Son having those one-on-ones or those chances like he had against West Ham. We want to see a lot more of that, especially in Milan.
You've got to play to his strength, and as soon as Kane plays that into him, I said earlier, I said it, as soon as it happened, Johnny was talking about Barney Ronnie, and I said, I've chipped in with, you knew it was a goal, and Johnny said, whether it was a goal. You knew it was a goal, because that's Son in his strength, right? He's in on goal. You ain't going to miss that. That's Sonny through and through. You've got to play to his strength, and I think there is a lot to be said for Perisic and Son just not quite hitting it off. It doesn't work.
Yeah, even coming to Perisic as well. Perisic, most of his assists have been through like the set pieces. They haven't been from actual open play as well, if you think about it. And from your wing backs, you kind of want your wing backs to either take a player on and then whip it in, or come inside and have a shot. And sometimes Perisic does a cross where he just floats it to the back post. Sometimes you want to whip it in with pace so our forwards can attack it. And then if we know the balls are coming in fast, then you're going to have Kane pushing forward a lot more, and you're going to have maybe Kulu coming inside a lot more, or even the wing back on Emerson, maybe coming in like from wing back to wing back, what we saw last season, them scoring goals like that. So we just need something on that left-hand side that switches it up a little piece more, because Emerson coming inside a lot more, I wouldn't mind seeing one of our wing backs come inside. Do you know what I mean? And then Son coming out wide, and then vice versa. So it just needs to have fluidity and needs to have a bit more rotation. And then I think the rhythm can help the team be more expansive when going forward, because we're not creating as many chances. And that's why a lot of fans are moaning still, because even though we've got our highest points and we've got our highest wins, the people are still like, stylistically, they're not understanding why we're not, The
problem is, Ash, that the team is too rigid in its formation, and Conte likes to be rigid. He doesn't like to be flexible in terms of, switching up play. Like you mentioned, just the transitional phases of the game, switching it up. But I
think we've seen that change in the last few weeks. I think we've seen with the Emerson thing.
We have. But, whether that's Conte, it must be Conte that has highlighted that and possibly asked for that.
I think there's hope within because they have to change. You get found out after a while.
Yeah.
And
I think they're that all season and getting away with it as well.
Do you care about the style rush? We beat Milan 2-0 with another shit first half.
No,
2-0. I couldn't care less.
I don't care about the style, but I'm just saying the general. Like, I hear a lot of fans saying it's it's boring and they're not happy with the football and because we're winning, we're getting the results. Yeah. But there's a part of the fan base that don't understand that. Like, we're not necessarily counter-attacking, but we're a team where we pick our moments to attack. Yeah, we don't hold. We're not a possession-based team. We're a team that kind of gets it into the front three, or we get it into the wing backs. And a lot of people are saying, we don't have wing backs, and we're getting overrun in midfield, etc., etc. But we're a team that it doesn't matter, because we want the teams to come onto us, so we have the space to run into. That's what I've been seeing.
It's almost like the rope-a-dope, isn't it? I mean,
exactly what it is.
You invite the pressure and then hope to counter on the break. You know, you have to have that pressure from the team, or you have to allow the other team to have the ball to win it back, and then you know, press forward when the opportunities come your way.
I can't see Milan having much. Milan are going to want to give us the ball. It could be difficult for us next week.
It's going to
Milan
be difficult.
Won't attack. They don't need to attack.
No.
But if we score, it changes the whole thing and opens it up for us.
Yeah, I think if we get high and wide, if we become high and wide, I think players like, Skip the last game. I think Skip tactically, positionally was very, very aware, because he stopped a lot of their attacks. He was getting his toes on the end of passes, stopping the attacks, breaking it up. Then I think Papameta Sarr was really good at driving the ball forwards, like covering a lot of grass, covering a lot of areas. I looked at his heat map, he was everywhere. And a lot of people were surprised when Skip got the nod ahead of him, even though Skip's got more experience. And I understand why Skip was chosen against West Ham. But off the back of that Milan game, everyone thought, look at Sarr. Sarr looks so amazing, because even he had a chance where he shot outside the box, where the ball came into him. It was like a wonderful move between Kulu and Skip, and then it came down to him, and he took a shot and he went outside the box. But his XG, like his expected goals and quality of shots, were going up, because he was more front-footed than Skip, I would say, in terms of trying to shoot and create chances for himself and his teammates. But I just think, I think Sarr might start tomorrow, and he might start in the Champions League, and I think Skip might start against Wolves. So I think our strongest 11, I think Skip's going to be in, and I think Sarr's there to cover the cup games, personally.
Yeah. So in terms of predictions, let's get the predictions out there. Tottenham AC Milan, second leg, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Johnny, how do you see it going? Prediction for the game?
I mean, Gaz will tell you I'm a massive pessimist. This is rare.
You could be as pessimistic as
No, but I'm not going to be. I actually think we'll beat them 3-1.
I was going to go with 3-1.
You can have
3-1. Go for it.
No, I mean, Johnny will tell you I'm a massive optimist, but I think it's 3-1. I will be disappointed.
I meant to Milan. I meant no, joking.
Ash, we've got 2 3-1s.
2-0.
Very positive results. 2-0. You say we'll keep a clean sheet.
Same, but different.
2-goal difference.
2-goal difference.
What about you?
I'm going to go for a very, very tight. I think it will be 1-0, and it will go through to extra time.
Can't handle that.
I've just got that feeling. We'll try and keep it tight and not concede. Hopefully we'll get the goal, but I can see it going through to extra time.
But as Gaz says, that's the beauty of the away goal. We could go 1 down, and I'd still fancy us to score twice. And at that point, 2 seasons ago, you're out.
Just need a goal.
Yeah.
I can't see.
But we just need a goal, and if we get that goal, the stadium's going to go.
Yeah.
And I just think I can see Milan crumbling.
Yeah, hopefully. So we've got some very positive results. 3-1 from Johnny and Gaz. And Ashmatic's going with 2-0. I'm going with the 1-0. Anyone in the chat care to give us your predictions? Let us know in the chat.
Just pick up on this point that Phil's made here about the performances against Arsenal.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
they were bad. Don't get me wrong. We played Arsenal at such bad times. We played them away just after the international break when they decided that all their players didn't have to go. None of their Brazilians went on international break. We lost Kulusevski. All our South Americans had come flying back from wherever they'd been. And then at home, in my head, it was also a terrible time. We lost. We had Star starting making his senior debut. We just played them we were shit in both games. They didn't have to get lucky. If we played them now, I fancy if we played them on Saturday at home or Sunday at home, it would be a totally different game.
And I think as well, just on that point, I remember against Arsenal at half-time at the Emirates, it was 1-1. And we're talking about how we play the rope-a-dope type tactics. It worked to a T in that first half against Arsenal at the Emirates. There were 4 or 5 occasions we were on the halfway line and we were in. Our final ball on that day, even the penalty we got, the final ball was so bad and we were lucky to get the penalty. But 4 or 5 times at half time, I think I was saying to you, Johnny, and a couple of others, I was like, they're fucking playing right into our hands here. We've got them. And all that happened in the second half was Lloris dropped one into his net and 5 minutes later, the ref has sent off Royale. So was it a terrible performance? It was just one of them things. And then at home, again, what's happened? Fucking Lloris has dropped another one into his net and put us right on the back foot again. Like,
I'm going to echo.
Against them.
I'm going to echo. Basically, the reason why we've been poor in performances in games such as Arsenal and other games that we shouldn't have lost is because of mistakes, individual errors from your Llorises and from your Dyers. Massive howlers, stinkers.
Also at the Emirates, up front, mistakes are you've got 40 yards of space to put that ball into, and we did not execute it once with 4 or 5 perfect scenarios, and we didn't execute it once.
You barely see those errors from City, Liverpool, Arsenal this season. I can think of one when against City when Tommy Aston with a back pass. Liverpool when they were, like you were saying, when they were gegenpressing, when they were flying. You don't see those mistakes from those teams. We do it too often, and it's usually dire in the race.
Yeah, it's a little bit like I struggle to think of gifts of goals that we've been given this season, and maybe I'm biased, but I feel like we have to work for every goal, and that might be because we're not a possession team, we're not in their penalty area as much, whatever you might want to put that down to. But I can think of probably 10, 12 goals off the top of my head where I'm going, it shouldn't have happened. That just shouldn't happen. And you can say that about every goal. I know people say you can say that about every goal. I'm talking about actual basic errers.
Yeah,
basic errors.
I think if we had none of those errors, I think we'd be high up the table. We'd be high up the table.
We'd be fine.
If Arsenal had those errors, if City had those errors, like if United had those errors, they would have dropped right down to the table. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think
can't have your keeper throwing the ball in the net against the league leaders.
Because
both games.
Guess what? Against Chelsea, we didn't make any mistakes. Guess what? Against West Ham, we didn't make any errors.
Against City at home.
And now you can see why it's starting to work. Why we're picking up results. Do you understand? So you take those errors away,
but
we would have been higher on the table.
You're 100%. And it's what we were saying earlier. Like, it feeds back to the style of football and people saying it's boring. But hang about. Don't make errors. Don't concede goals. We will score. We just will. Because we're pretty good going forward.
It's focus, and we'll lack that from yourself.
Right, here you go. I've had a look. I've run the numbers. Errors leading to goals this season. Most, Tottenham 7, Aston Villa 7.
I've got 12 in my head that I can think of straight away. So I've got another 5 on that.
Those are 2 goals. Officially, we are the most in the league with Aston Villa. And that's just...
That's it. It's all about cutting out the individual errors at the end of the day.
It's like 3 from Dyer, 4 from Lloris.
You know, when it's individual errors rather than a team, team effort, you've got to look at it as in it's the class of players that we need to bring in have to be more consistent. They have to be better on the ball. They have to have less mistakes in them, and that's a personnel problem. That's got to change over time, you know. But we'll move on to the next one, and it's Kulu, Son, and Richie. And their form. So, look, much has been said about, obviously, Son's form. Son has been pretty much woeful at times this season. And then Richie, well, he hasn't scored any goals in the Premier League yet this season. He's got 2 in the Champions League. And Kulusevski, coming off the success of last season, the tail end, the success story that he was, he has been a bit hit and miss this season. So, I'll start with Ash. What do you make of their form? I mean, with Son's been well documented. Obviously, Richie, he's had his injuries. He's come in whenever he's been needed, and then Kulusevski had an injury as well.
There you go. There you go, my friend. So I'll start with Sonny. Sonny, this time last season, I always like to compare the two. He had similar amount of goals from last season. He didn't score many goals. It was only in the second half of the season when he started to pick up. He scored something like 15 goals or something crazy. Like he went on a run where he was just scoring goals. And he wasn't just scoring 1 goal. He was scoring like 2 or 3 goals. He was getting hauls. So when you get a big haul of goals, that makes a difference. And so there's still enough games in the season. We still got like 14 league games where Son could have 2 or 3 games where he scores like a haul of goals, and that makes a whole difference to Son's season. When we're going to look back at Son's season and say, oh, he had a great season, we'll see. But it does come down to, like I said to before, it does come down to Son. Like when I watched his highlight reel of last season, he wasn't just in the center, he wasn't just on the left, but he was also on the right. He had that freedom. So sometimes he was popping up with goals on the right hand side or the right half space. Sometimes it was the left hand half space, and sometimes it was centrally. And sometimes he started his run from the left and ended up in the center. And sometimes he started on the right and ended up in the center. So it was a very of goals and movement patterns that he was doing. So I still expect to see a lot more from Son. And I think with the season, there's going to be a lot more games for him to kind of get that more rubber green, to get more of his form back in, because we're starting to see glimpses of it. And maybe him being on the bench and him seeing the game from the sidelines has allowed him to kind of think, okay, maybe this is what I would do if I was on the pitch. Okay, when I get on the pitch, when I get my chance, I'll do this different. And sometimes he needed that. I remember that the criticism from his father saying how I don't think Son is world class. Do you know what I mean? And I wonder how much that's still in the back of his mind, and if he needs that kind of fire. Because I know those kind of Korean parents, they can be very harsh and hard, but he might need that kind of kick up the arse to kind of relight his fire, because you don't want to live on yesterday's laurels, or you don't want to get ahead of yourself. So he's going to be putting in the work, and the fact that Richarlison is trying to get push for that start is also going to help push his form as well. Looking at Kulu obviously got injured and he's had a stop-start season. For me, I looked at his stats again. I'm a stat merchant, it is what it is. He's had the highest amount of assists next to Perisic. Difference being they've been from open play. So as bad as he's been playing, he's actually our most creative player. And you'd think that would be Kane, wouldn't you? But in terms of actually assists and creating opportunities for the teammates, it's actually been Kulu. And Kulu plays as an actual winger. This season, I have seen him play a little bit more central at times, and it hasn't really been getting on the score sheet. But when he's wide and he comes inside and links up with Emerson, he's just different class. Even against that Arsenal game, if he had more chances on target, because he had a lot of shots in that Arsenal game, that second half, he was coming and he was doing damage. But it just wasn't happening for him. And I just feel like with a lot of players, it's all about rhythm. It's all about understanding how your teammates play. It's all about just knowing the feel of the ball, or just having the weight of the person just bounce you. Do you understand, when you're playing football? And I felt like the first couple games, he looked a bit off the boil. But now we're starting to see Kulu a bit stronger in possession, win the ball, hold it up. Because a lot of the time, he was losing possession, where before he would hold on to the ball. And then sometimes it looks like, he's going to lose the ball. And he pulls off some mad miracle skill, and he just manages to keep hold of the ball, and he just manages to dribble down. And it looks like he's got no pace, but for some reason he's got bags of pace, and he's able to get away from his player. And he likes to come in and assist sometimes, and sometimes he'll cut in and put on his left foot, or sometimes he'll drop onto his right foot. He's just a wonderful player to watch, and he's one of our most beautiful players. And then you've got Richarlison,
hasn't he? He's got amazing
balance.
And the fact that he's so strong. You say he looks so quick. It's the fact that he's strong and he's able to hold off players when he's on the ball. Yeah. Just gives him that ability to make those runs. It's absolutely fantastic.
Definitely.
I think regardless of Kulu's form, whether he's playing well or playing or not, I don't think we are the same team without him in it. Yeah. Whereas with Son not in the team, okay, with Son firing, of course he's going to be in the team. But when Son's playing badly, you can take him out of the team, and we're not going to miss him. It doesn't matter if Kulo's good or not. You take him out of the team, we feel it.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And I just think with going back to Richarlison, for him, he just needs a run of games. I don't know if it's going to happen for him this season, and I don't know if fans have that much patience for him, but I just feel like it doesn't matter if he's left, right, or central. He's just a confidence player. And again, I go back to rhythm. You just need that run of games where you just know where the goal is, and it just happens instinctively, and you just end up putting the ball in net. It doesn't matter. You saw it with Brazil. You know what he's about. We saw it with Everton. I've even seen it with Watford. He's so explosive. He's so fast. He's such a handful, and he's good at creating chances for his teammates as well. So I know a lot of people are like, he's not playing. He's playing that position until we see him as a number 9. And the reason why he was brought in was to give Kane a rest, and that's the reason why we brought him in. But I honestly think with Richarlison, it's just that, like you can see, when he got substituted off, it was another time as well. He got subbed off. Oh no, he wasn't subbed off. He was on the bench, and he thought he was coming on, and then he didn't come on, and he got frustrated. He threw his bib down. He just like, but you could just see the fire inside him is burning.
He's a goal scorer. He's a centre forward. He wants to score goals.
Simple as that.
But I think as well, I mentioned earlier, Richarlison has come in, I think, potentially as a succession plan for Kane. But I think more than that as well, in the shorter term, he can cover any of them 3 positions up front. He adds so much depth to the squad. I think he's such a valuable player for us. And I think people need to put the price tag to one side because it's kind of irrelevant. The reality is, without Richarlison there, our squad is much weaker. Yeah. And I think he's going to be a huge player for us over years to come.
I don't think he wants
all the reasons that you say, Ash. I love him. I love his fire. I love his tenacity. I love his energy. I do think he's a number 9, but I love that he can cover left or right. Like he can bring so much to everything that we do.
But I think that's his downfall. I don't think he wants to play wide. He wants to play in the middle of this penalty area. And he's he is a fox in the box. He is for Brazil. Just Ash, going back to Son, you love a stat. I was looking at his XG. So last season, 23 goals, XG of 16. Season before, 17 goals, XG of nearly 10. So he's way above his XG. This season, 5 goals from an XG of 5. So his XG is fucking low. Like, what is? Yeah. Is it him? Is it the team? Have other teams worked him and us out? Is it a mixture of all of it? Something is really not right.
I think because we're playing with the formation where we're playing 2 attacking midfielders and Kulu playing more central and Son playing more central. When we drop into the 5-4-1, he has a lot more defensive responsibility, and because he's got a lot more defensive responsibility, you find him a lot further down the pitch. So whereas before he might have been a little bit higher up the pitch and was able to break into space and run, I think because he's defending so much, I think some of that energy is being taken from him. And then, like I said before, his body position, he kind of, when he receives the ball, he's kind of going back in himself. He's not opening up his body. He's not running in behind. He's not doing those.
But against West Ham, in the first half, we had a break on against West Ham. He started quite deep, and he got the ball. And I can't remember who the West Ham player was. Nobody quick, couldn't outpace him. Whereas last season, bang, we were gone. We were in goal. See you later. And he couldn't get past.
But that's confidence, isn't it?
That is confidence. And like when he first came on, he actually wasn't in space. West Ham were dropping. Sometimes West Ham a team where
it was Villa. Sorry, it wasn't West Ham. It was Villa.
Right, Villa.
It was Villa. Whoever the Villa right, it was Ashley Young. It was Ashley Young. He couldn't get past Ashley Young.
And did he start? Did he start the game?
He started that game.
Yeah. So that game, I remember that left-hand side. I think we conceded from that left-hand side, and I think Kane was in possession. But when he's asked to do all that defending down that left-hand side, you can see his game kind of drops. I don't know. I'm not saying like last season or seasons before he hasn't had defensive responsibility, but I'm just trying to figure out a reason why. Like I said before, his first instinct is to dribble, when sometimes, we don't want you to dribble in that position. I remember Dembele was a wicked dribbler, but he used to dribble in the wrong spaces and we used to lose the ball a lot. And I feel the same with Son. Yeah, Son needs to be first instinct, just link up with your teammates, do short passes. That's what Tottenham are known for now, doing those small little tight short passes and then switching it.
And the 5 goals he scored this season, the 3 against Leicester, the 1 against Palace, and the 1 against...
All from the right.
But all goals that we were scoring last season.
That makes a really interesting point.
All from the right-hand side, though. If you look at his heat map, he scored all those goals from the right-hand side as well.
Friday asked a really interesting question at the bottom. I think Sonny's legs are shot just whether they're shot or not. Would you sell him at the end of the season?
Well, Spurs don't do that. That's probably enough topic for another day. Spurs don't sell players when they probably should. And there's an argument to say we could still get a lot of money for Son. Another 2 years' time, when his legs may well have definitely gone, we ain't getting shit for him.
Yeah. I'll take money from him at the end of the season. Yeah, I love Sonny, but I think if you get 40 million, 50 million from him.
No, do you know, I changed my mind straight away. In fact, I wouldn't. I had to hope that he would be back and his legs aren't shot. And that's what Spurs do. We probably hold on too long. But
it's a hard one because with
Golden Boot last season, I'm not ready to get rid of him just yet.
His actual conversion rate is one of the best in Europe when it comes to his actual shots. So like if he's got a 1-on-1, Son's finishing it. Do you know what I mean? Outside the box.
West Ham, as soon as Kane played it.
Yeah. You know Son's going to finish it. Even outside the box, Son's finishing. For some reason this season, his finishing out the box has been left to desired for some reason. I don't know why. But when he's on form, when he's confident, there's no better finisher than Son. Left foot, right foot. He's just one of the best.
Absolutely,
and it's going to be hard to replace that type of player is very hard to replace, regardless of his age and how much time he has
I
left.
think his replacement needs to be gradual rather than, right, here's the replacement for next
Well, you're
season.
seeing it with Liverpool and Mane coming out the sides. They had to bring Jota in. They had to bring Diaz that we were linked in. Remember, Diaz was meant to be our player. And then also they brought in Nunez has been brought in. So I think it's got to be a similar mode where we bring in players whilst Son's still here before we actually give him the chop suey. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Sorry, no pun intended, but yeah.
Right. So, Johnny, I know you've said a few words, but yeah, what's your take on it?
Great to be able to sit here and discuss who we should play, Kulusevski, Son, or Richarlison, because in the past it's been who we're going to play, Mora or Lamela. Like, it's a great problem to have, right? So it's glad that we can talk about this
on paper. Yeah.
But it's important for the other players too to have. Look, we've seen what Porro's arrival has done for Emerson, and potentially what Richie's arrival has done for Son. Backwards for Son. I don't think he's liked the competition. His place has been assured for 5 seasons. It's a nice problem to have. Danjuma's decent too. We've discussed him. As you said earlier, Ash, it's not. In fact, it might be Jacob. It's not a position we really have a problem in. If they're all on form, and they've been in and out of form too often this season. But for me, at the moment, I'm happy with the front three as they are, with Son on the bench. I think Son will start against Sheffield United, but against Wolves and Milan, I wouldn't be against Son having half an hour off the bench again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Danjuma because the game I did see him in, the 2 games I saw him in, the first game obviously against Preston, he scored and he was very busy. He wanted the ball, asking a lot from his players, made loads of runs, like look awkward, both foot, left foot, right foot, ended up in the right, ended in the middle, was on the left-hand side, could take a player on. And then when he came on again for the second game, I can't remember who was against, but he actually made the byline. I haven't seen many players other than Kulu and possibly Porro hit that byline. You know the byline, and he came back in and he tried to square it from someone. And I kind of like my wingers to kind of get to that area. Aaron Lennon used to do it a lot as well. He used to come in, and then I was missing that. I like an old school winger that can beat a man and do something and make assists, because that's the only way you're going to break the lines when you've got defenses that are sitting deep. You've got 2 backs of 4, you've got 5. Like when we play against Sheffield United, they're going to have a back 5, aren't they? So to break that down, what are we going to do? Sometimes you can't always find the pass to get through that player. You can't always pass your way through. Sometimes you need someone that's a bit tricky that can get through the between the midfield line and defensive line and then create problems. There's number one thing defenders hate is players running at them that can do it. So in a Danjuma, I would like to see a lot more of him. A lot of people, there's question marks about him, but I'd say give him a run. Give him a run.
He might start him tomorrow.
I'm sure he starts tomorrow.
I reckon.
Do or don't.
I reckon
Son, Kane and Kulu starts, to be fair. I don't think Danjuma or Rich are going to start, if I'm being honest.
You think he'll go that strong?
Only because what Stanley was saying about Middlesbrough last season and how we went out. And obviously the season before, we've been out from like Norwich, Southampton, Colchester. Like since Poch has left, we haven't actually met like into the last stages. Yeah, Norwich, is that Norwich on penalties? Like, what's that about? So, do you know what I mean? So I think like Conte wants a cup. I think he wants to come there and he wants a winning mentality. He wants to kind of use that. I know people are saying, "Oh, Conte, will be here in certain season," but I just think he's a winner and he's trying to push that in all the players. Like we want to, even when Skip was talking the match today, his press conference, he just sounded so professional, but he just sounded like, you know, they want more. They want to achieve a lot more. I think Pape Sarr it was as well. It wasn't match of the day. It was Sarr came out and he said, "Yeah, I want AFCON and now I want to achieve a lot in Champions League. I want to do well in Europe. I want to do well in Premier League. I want to kind of win stuff." And I think it's that kind of winning mentality that I think Conte is trying to push into the players. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do. I think at the back, it'll be different. I think Romero will get a rest because we can't afford to lose Romero. We can't. I'm telling you. So I think Romero will get rested. I think Taganga will come in. And I think Dyer might get a rest. I think Sanchez will come in. So I think we'll see changes at the back.
I think he'll play Romero, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
Simply because look, we're one man light as much as I'm not Dyer's biggest fan, but would have been useful for him to be available. Oh no, sorry, this is Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. Talk about Sheffield United.
Yeah. I still think he'll play. I still think Romero will play.
He'll be strong.
You think he'll play against Sheffield United and Wolves as well?
I think just to keep the consistency between them, because don't forget one of the problems we've had, I think, is the chopping and changing of the defensive lineup at the back, and I think no matter how big or small the game is, we need to keep that defensive unit like solid as they can be.
Just to worry about injuries, though, innit? Any more injuries and we get even thinner. No one's coming back. The players that are out for a long time. You can't play. You can't play because you might get injuries. You've got big games. You've got to play your players. But we are a couple of injuries.
I mean, you could say the same about Harry Kane, though. Harry Kane starts every single game.
But if Kane comes out, if Kane was to get injured, let's say I reckon this is why I reckon Kane starts. If Kane was to get injured, you know that Richarlison would jump in. Do you know what I'm saying? As big as Kane is, and he's such a massive player for us, we know Rich can come in potentially. Yeah. But if Romero goes,
we're in big trouble.
That's all I can say. Like, it's going to be
mad, isn't it? It's mad. We're talking about Harry Kane, saying like we can manage without Harry Kane, but we can't manage without.
No, but I'm saying,
I kind of agree. I kind of agree. If Romero goes, our defense is.
That's our season. That's our season. Like a balloon, letting air out. Because you just think about it. You just think Sheffield United, Championship team. I know they're second in the league, and I look at this.
Rest players.
I look at this. Yeah, they might rest because guess what?
Got illness
against
as well.
Against Wrexham, they struggled. They just about got through, and Wrexham gave them a hard time. And then guess what? They lost 2 games back to back after that. They lost 2 games back to back. And the league and promotion is way more important to the fans and the club than the FA Cup, than the FA Cup.
I agree with you, but they all get money. Clear. They are quite a long way clear at the moment.
They are quite a long way. They are. They're like 7 points. I think the next team behind them are like, they're not.
It's going to be a tough game. However you look at it,
no, definitely. No. Look, I looked at Sheffield United against Watford, and their wing backs they get high. They play a 3-5-2, and I was impressed by Doyle. Doyle was getting high up. They got a striker called Inde. He's very tricky foot. He gets the foot. He dribbles a lot. They've got McBurdy. Sorry. He's a centre forward that kind of drops in between.
Bogle as well.
Bogle's good. Yeah, that's it. Bogle.
It's going to be a good atmosphere.
They've got Sander Berger. They're forward man. He comes in, he drops in, and you got your Sander Bergers, you got your Doyles, you got your Ndiaye all pushing off of him because he's the man. He's not bad. He's a big man, but he's quite good with his feet. So he's like a Kane. He can play players that like to run in behind him. So I think it's going to be not easy, even though I have heard that they had an illness run through their club. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they do rest players. So that's another thing I'm looking at as well.
You know what happens? They play all their ill players, and our players all get ill from Milan next week. That's what.
The pessimist speaks.
Well, we've been ill for 22 years, so
I mean, Gaz, have you got anything to add to the Kulu, Son, and Richie situation? What's your take?
No, I think it's all been said, hasn't it? It's just we're very lucky to have them players. I thought it was interesting. Porro came on at right wing on the weekend. He was a right winger, so we've got that option as well. If Royale's playing that well, potentially he can come in and give Kulusevski a bit of a break. So we've got options throughout that whole front area, and it's just not the area of the pitch I think we need to be too concerned, even if a couple of players are out of form. We mentioned Romero not being able to do without him. I genuinely don't think we can do without Kulusevski for long periods. I think that's another injury if we'd struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree with you on that one. Moving on swiftly, we come to Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Antonio Conte, MIA. As we all know, currently Conte is recuperating in Italy somewhere in more sunny climes, and he's left all operations to Mr. Christian Stellini. What we're making of Conte at the moment? Obviously, we sort of touched on it at the beginning of the show with Stellini coming in and everything else, but I'll start with you, Gaz. Can you see Conte, sticking around beyond his contract, or can you see something, a contract being struck up for him to stay on?
We've got apparently this option to extend. Obviously, that depends on him as well. I don't want to see a scenario where he's agreed to stay for another year and we're taking that option. If he stays, I want to see 2-3 years, and I want to see commitment, and I want to see him say, I'm here, I'm in. I'm going to stop bitching. I'm going to stop looking over at Italy. I'm going to stop the negative vibes. I don't mind the mind games and the pressure on the board to deliver more players. I don't mind that, but a lot of it manifests itself in a way that comes across, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. The atmosphere around wasn't positive, and if it's not going to be that way, then mate, just go. But I think, as I said earlier in the show, if he wants to turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to be here, I'd love him to be here, because how are you going to do better than Conte? You're not. And if Conte is on it and positive and really sort of wanting, got the fire in his belly, and he's in, fucking let's go. But it's on him. It's on him as far as I'm concerned. It's not on anybody else. It's on him to come back from this rest, from his operation, and have that different attitude and the different persona around him. He's been so mardy, so miserable. Even every interview, it's like, makes me feel miserable when I watch him. Like, whereas this is a guy that I want to see, the guy where that famous interview, I think with Thierry Henry, where Conte's going, if I have that wrong guy in my squad, I kill him. I'm like, I want to see that guy. Where's that guy? And the guy that somebody else said, his words cut through you. I'm not seeing that with Conte at the minute. So for me, it's just all on him. If he wants to come back and be the guy that he's meant to be and commit and get stuck in, wow, I'm behind him. But otherwise, come on, mate, do one.
Yeah. And Johnny, I mean, you've obviously heard what Gaza said there. Do you share his feelings on Conte? Would you reckon he's going to stick beyond his contracts? And have you seen his tenure so far at Tottenham?
I think Gary's spot on. So just to echo what he says, it drives me mad that Conte speaks a lot like he's doing us a big favour. With Danny Kelly on one of the Spurs pods this week, someone wrote in and said, why don't you give Conte any praise? And Danny Kelly said, well, I'll give him praise when he praises us. He just constantly talks down. That aside, I agree with Gary. If he mucks in and commits, then great. I'm all in for it. His tenure so far, someone said earlier in one of the questions, he's underachieved with his squad. I don't think he has. I think he arguably overachieved from where he took over last season. We are fourth now. It's taken a while to get there, and obviously Newcastle got games in hand. I would love him to just, like I keep saying, or we've all kept saying, commit, muck in, say, right, another 2-3 years, I'm here, let's do this. I can't see one Spurs fan that deep down, they may say on the surface of football shit, but deep down they know we're not going to get anybody better. You can get your project managers like De Zerbi or someone like Potter. Nobody wants Potter anymore. They're a bit of a risk, aren't they? You don't know what you're going to get. Let's just have this time last season Conte for the next 2 or 3 years, and we'll be golden. I'm absolutely sure about that. I do want him to stay, but he's got to want to stay. And I'm hopeful this little break, he's had a terrible few months with the illness. He's lost 2 or 3 close friends. I think the break is actually, at the time I was like, what's he doing? Where's he going? Why is he doing this? But that's more important than football. But he's gone away. Thankfully, we've been okay when he's not been here. Had he not been here and we were shit, it'd have just been a disaster. Thankfully, it's been okay. Come back, don't mope around, muck in, get into the top 4, and let's just go for the next 2-3 years.
Absolutely. Ash, what's your take on it? I mean, with the Conte situation at the moment, we don't know whether he's going to stick around. Very cryptic in his interviews. Sometimes, it's a bit difficult to read what he's thinking. But also his demeanour and his attitude on the touchlines has changed somewhat as well, where he cuts a really dejected figure. What have you made of his performances this year? and his tenure as a whole?
It's a hard one because Stellini's getting praised because, you know, he's less animated than Conte, you know, and people are like, well, maybe the players feel more relaxed and they are able to play their football and have given more freedom and more trust. But when Conte was sat back and he didn't really, you know, jump on the sidelines, people were like, oh, Conte doesn't look like interested. Do you know what I mean? And then people are like, yeah, Conte is trying to distance himself from the club. He doesn't look interested. He doesn't want to be there. Well, I've heard like Stellini say that he's been on the phone to him 3 times. And if a manager didn't want to be there as well, he wouldn't have broken his own health, fly from Italy, come to get the Leicester game and the Man City game, and he wasn't fully fit. He just wouldn't do that if he wasn't interested. So I just
said
think
himself it was a mistake that he shouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly. But because he's such a workaholic and he's so stubborn in that aspect that he's a football man first and foremost. He's wanted to get back and start working. He's a workaholic. That's him through and through. And we all know he's a stubborn man. I think we can all agree on that. I just think he really is about football first. And I think he actually does like the boys. I think he thinks they're good lads, a good group of lads. And I think even when he was talking about Richarlison, he was like, this is the type of player we need. I like this. He's that kind of nasty. So there's certain things I would pick up on and I think, you know what? I think, you know, when Conte doesn't succeed, we saw it with the Burnley situation. He was like, maybe it's me. I don't think I'm good enough. Do you know what I mean? And some people were like, you know, that might have been a tactical deploy to get the players to play from, which it might have been. This season, he's had a little incident similar to that situation. And sometimes I just think Conte is a man, he just says how he feels at the time, whether it be right or wrong. And then us as fans see that. And I'm not saying we're wrong with it, but we're like, we take that into account. We're like elephants. We've got long memories and we hold on to those emotions and we're like, yeah.
Yeah, but the players hear it as well, Ash. The players hear it as well, right?
To be fair though, I don't think he's been as brutal as Mourinho. Mourinho was the one that used to chuck them under the bus. Yeah. I think Conte has been.
He doesn't do that.
A bit more clever with it and a bit more cryptic to kind of get players to play a bit more. Because you need, as a manager, you need a reaction. You can't be a Potter and be like, because you've seen where that's going. Do you understand? If we had a Potter, oh my lord, you kind of want an Italian kind of put a firework up your ass and kind of get the players in. And if you need to be told off, get told off. Do you understand? I mean, it's just his style, it's his mannerisms, it's just the way he does the club. But I just think, this is my thing, I don't know, I could be wrong, my opinion, don't shoot me, but I just think if we were to go on a strong cup run and win the FA Cup, he's staying. Top 4, if we went top 4, maybe. But know that Antonio's a winner. We haven't won in 15 years. Was it from yesterday? 15 years we haven't won a cup. 15 years. So the type of personality, the type of character, these nice boys. Because remember when Mourinho came in the documentary, he goes, you're just too nice. You're nice guys. You're such a nice people. You're nice. You kind of need to be bastards. You need to be, you could be nice out here, but you need to be bastards on the pitch. That's what I want. I want that type of passion. I want that energy. Whether it gets us fans like, oh, I don't like how he said that. Because you know what? As British English people, we don't like it when, you know, people talk out of turn. It's a bit rude. And how dare he say that? What about the players? Muddy cuddle. None of that, bruv. Man up. Do you understand? I want passion. I want fire. I want cups. Too many times it's been banter FC. Too many times people be talking smack, talking wicked. It's done. That's the main reason why Spurs fans are unhappy. We need trophies. And a lot of fans feel like Kane needs a trophy. No, we need trophies. Fans need trophies. We need to be back where we were many decades ago now.
Yeah, but do you want, it's the old question, Ash, would you take 5th in the FA Cup? I don't know what it does for the club. Nothing.
No, but if we get, it doesn't do anything for that. It does for the team though. We can use that to propel ourselves for the next season because it's been
players
so long since
League football.
Players do want Champions League football. Players do want. I agree because for a long time I was like, you know what? I was that guy. I was like, you know what? I won't say it to no one, but I want top 4 because I thought top 4 you can build on. I said, one more season, top 4, we can get more players. But then I look at other clubs. I mean, I know in the rest of Europe it's different because you got Seville, you got what's the team that Good Evening used to manage? Villarreal.
Yeah.
They've been winning Europa Cups endlessly. Do you know what I'm saying? But nobody wants to go to them. Do you understand? They're still not a powerhouse.
Yeah, but I think the Premier League's different to
But
survive.
I know the Premier League is different. I'm just saying. But but what I'm saying also is that because we haven't had it, we've been starved. Sometimes we have to put the players to the side, and you just have to be selfish, and it has to be for the fans. I like I said to you, I was for a long time. I said just one more Champions League because then we might get Gavardio that can play out from the back and he can dribble through the lines, and that would be great instead of Eric Dyer. Because let's face it, I don't think we get him if we don't get top 4 Champions League. I don't know, but if Conte was to bring us an FA Cup, and we had that open bus stadium, and we went through North London, like with thousands of fans, like what a moment! Like how much tears would break down? Like if
I would cry. I'd cry for a week.
Listen, I'll bust a tear. I'm not gonna lie. I'll bust a
tear. It'll be a
because
long time coming. I mean, we've been starved for so long. It's just ridiculous now. But
the reality of it is, we're in a really good spot in that top 4 race. Okay, we're in a much better position in that than we were this time last year. I think Newcastle, I've just got a feeling they're going to fade, and I can see us, keeping momentum. And that FA Cup has opened up. So the question of 5th and FA Cup or 4th it's not a question. I know why Johnny's asking it, but it's not a question I like. Where we are right now, we should finish 4th. We just should. It'd be a disappointment from where we are now to not kick on and finish 4th. And with the FA Cup as open as it is, I look at that. Leicester have gone out tonight. You've got City and you've got United. All right, you can lose in any game to either of them 2 teams. But come on now, we can also beat City and United on our day. We've shown it. That FA Cup is wide open. So why not 4th in the FA Cup? What a great season. What a great season that would be. Fuck Arsenal, whatever they do. 4th in the FA Cup. Come on, let's have that.
Fuck Arsenal.
I mean, I'd even take an FA Cup and finish 5th or 6th, if I'm being honest with you. If it means that we're going to win a cup or a trophy of some sort.
Yeah, but why should it mean one or the other? Look at where we are in the league. We've got ourselves into this position where we should finish 4th.
I'm not saying I don't want us to finish 4th, but what I am saying is if we were to miss out on top 4 and we won a trophy, I wouldn't be that bothered because we're starved of trophies. We want to win things. It's not the be all and end all. I mean, we've finished 4th. I know 4th brings in its riches and whatever else it brings in.
We've had it. It's not a trophy.
Top
4 is not a trophy. It's not in the cabinet.
Yeah, like I said, 4th is not a trophy. We don't. This is why we get bantered all the time.
Listen, I saw something today.
It's not.
Listen, quickly. I saw something today. It was so Spursy. So basically, they were getting people getting like a tour. They were in a tour, right? And they're going around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and there's trophies, right? And it's like, and the tour guide was so cheeky. He goes, he said, believe it or not, that is what we call a European Cup. Yes, Tottenham do win trophies.
The Europa Cup. Let's not forget that Spurs have got more European trophies than Arsenal.
I know that. And may long continue.
According to most fans these days, this trophy business started when the Premier League began. Quite clearly we know it's not the case, but a lot of young fans these days, seem to think that football started when the Premier League come about.
But there's another interesting question. I've been having this debate on Twitter this week about why Tottenham the club where this accusation is thrown. Right, you don't hear it labelled at West Ham, Everton, Villa. You don't hear it at Leeds. Newcastle have just lost another final, by the way. They've lost 3 or 4 in a row. They bottled 2 leagues back in the late 90s. They actually bottled 2 leagues in the late 90s. You don't hear this trophy accusation thrown at them. The reason it's thrown at us is because we've put ourselves up there. And we continue to put ourselves up there. And we haven't converted. And we're getting fucking mocked for not getting over the line in an era when 5 teams have dominated 85% of the trophies, basically since the turn of the century. 5 teams have dominated 85% of the domestic trophies since the turn of the century, and we're the ones getting mocked because we're putting ourselves up there and because we aspire and because we dare to fucking do it. And a lot of fans will go, but we're not daring to do it. Well, actually, we are. We are, because you've got the two financial corrupt clubs in Chelsea and City, and then you've got the three giants in United, Arsenal, and Liverpool. I'm sorry, they are fucking giants down the road.
Yeah, it is what it is.
They are. It is what it is. They're giants, right? But we're up there and we're putting ourselves in there, and we're getting mocked because we're falling short. But we've had as many opportunities as any point in our history to win trophies, and this is actually a good point in our history where we're taking part in more Europe than ever we have before, and all of this sort of stuff. And people, this comment at the bottom, they don't charge the high prices. Don't go. If you don't want to go, don't go. When I buy my season ticket, I don't buy it and go, well, I've paid that much money, so I expect this. No, I expect to go to Tottenham because I fucking love going to Tottenham, and that's why I've chosen to pay the money. That's why I go as a season ticket holder. I go, not, if it's too expensive for me, I'm not going to go. But I do it without any expectation. You can't pay. It's not like going to a restaurant, a Michelin star restaurant. You know what you're going to get. Football ain't like that. It's not the way football fucking works. You're not paying your money for guarantees of trophies. You're paying your money because you fucking love your club. So drop that. Drop that about, we pay more money. We pay more money, so we expect this. Fuck off. It's not to do with that.
Let me tell you, a Gary rant is one of the best things you hear. I love guys.
Because this topic pisses me off. This topic pisses me off. I want trophies more than anyone. Believe me, this is not me saying I'm okay with us not winning. Of course I do. It's what football's about. Okay, but why do people take the piss? Number one, because we demand it of ourselves that we want trophies. Yeah. I don't see Everton fans going, "Oh, we need trophies." They're fucking happy to get to 40 points, like we were back in the 90s. Our goal back in the 90s was, what game can we get to 40 points and stop shitting our pants, right? That was our goal back in the 90s. It's what Everton's goal is now. It's what West Ham's goal is. It's what Villa's fucking goal is. And Leeds, big clubs. But we demand it of ourselves.
Why do you think we got nicknamed Spursy? Where did that come from? And you put that into context, then you realize to get rid of that stigma, to get rid of that name, we need to push on. And the reason why I think Conte is good for that is just, I just feel like he's a winner and it's our best chance at winning trophies. And if 100%. We can just use that momentum, top 4 won't be a question. We'll be top 3, we'll be top 2. We'll be trying to push the league because Conte wants to win the league. And that's the reason why I'm Conte in. I'm behind him. And whether he stays or not, I know that's the question is because I've gone off the rail. But basically, I'm saying, if Conte was to stay, and I want him to stay, I think if we got a cup and we had a good cup run, I think he stays. And I think if we were in top 4, he's more likely to stay. But if we don't win a cup, which is possible, I'm not saying we're going to win a cup. I'm not saying we're going to go on a cup run. It's possible that we shit our pants and we turn into Spursy tomorrow night or whenever in the next round. Do you understand? Or we just miss out on top 4 and Newcastle pip us. Guess what? Yeah. It doesn't matter who the manager is. Newcastle will come in. Liverpool will be back. Chelsea has spunked 200, 300, 400, 500 mil, 1 billion on the squad, and they're going to keep on spending. They're not done yet. So guess what? The top 6 is getting harder. It's becoming a top 7.
We're still there.
And we're still there. Exactly. But I'm saying all this project manager talk, why can't Conte be our clock? Why can't we build up? Why can't he be the project manager? Why can't
he needs to want to be. Of
course. But I feel like in my heart, I feel like he does. But he just needs to see if the board is behind him and have the same ambition. Absolutely, I can see off the pitch, we've got the F1 just announced. I can see that we've got cinemas booked in, like indoor cinemas. We've got like a shopping centre. We've got gentrification. We've got the buildings, the flats. We've got the golf courses. We've got NFL. We've got Beyonce. We've got boxing. We've got it all. We've got multi-personal stadium. I'm not against it. Like, well done. But it's just whether that money can be generated and be funded back into the squad and help us be pushed up against those Chelsea and Man Cities and all of those.
Conte might also look around Europe and go, well, where else can I go? Where else can he go?
To be fair, he doesn't have to.
Milan ain't got money. The Italian clubs haven't got money. All the European clubs are pleading poverty. So he could go anywhere else and have the same situation, except that he's going to have the opportunity to spend more money here. Whether he gets as much money as he wants, that's another question. But he'll always spend more money at Tottenham than he would at Inter Milan now. Probably even Juventus or any other European club.
When it comes to ambition, if the club are not matching his ambition, he doesn't have to go anywhere. He can go back home to his missus and his family and chill.
I'm pretty sure she already said she don't like him being in the house. She needs him out.
But I'm just saying, do you see where I'm coming from? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if Tottenham aren't prepared to get the top centre-backs that he wants.
He's not going to risk his reputation if he doesn't believe he can do it.
Exactly. Or that Paratici, that him and Paratici, because Paratici is the manager, Conte's the coach, right? So Paratici's the one that says, like, I've identified this centre-back, he costs this much, he might be overpriced, but guess what? We're going to go for it. Then, and Conte's like, right, okay, cool, you guys are showing ambition, then all right, cool, let's do it. Because with every club he's gone at, he's actually done the same tactic. It's not nothing new. He's gone to Inter Milan. He's done this tactic. He's done Chelsea. He's done the same tactic. So it's not like he's just gone to Tottenham and all of a sudden he's pulled this fast one and he's like, oh, he doesn't want to be here. He has done it in a way to kind of like get what he wants. Because let's face it, as a manager, you want to get as many players or top quality players in as possible in that particular position or the weakness. And as a chairman, well, it depends who your chairman is, or it depends who the board is. As a board, you want to maybe, like, depends on your personality, you want to give as little, but get the most bang for your buck and make as much money as possible. Like maybe the Glazers, or not the Glazers, a bad example, but you see what I'm trying to say? Like certain chairmen, managers want more, chairmans want to like be, careful with the money. And that's what I get the feeling. Yeah, that's the feeling I get from our particular chairman. Like he's being frugal. I don't see him changing all of a sudden. Like if you've got spots and you're leopards and you try to paint over those spots to say you're a panther, over time those spots are going to start appearing, and guess what, it started to show. So that's how I see it. But
and Ash, that brings us nicely onto our next topic, which is the takeover rumors. Potentially a change of ownership of the club. It's been mooted since last month now, that potentially there were investors looking to invest in the club. Look, we'll come to Johnny on this one. There were strong rumours I think it's just before the transfer window closed, that some investors from Abu Dhabi or somewhere in that region wanted to invest in the club. And there's also now rumours of some other billionaire in America who wants to have a share in the club. I mean, what would you make of all these rumours? Any legs in them?
I don't know is the answer. And there's always that question of where do you stand between your club having loads of money but being owned by, a regime that you don't agree with. Not really something a route I want to go down. I'm very on the fence with Daniel Levy. I think he's done good things, and I think he's done bad things. And I know there are a lot of people who think he's done everything badly, and it's an argument that will run and run. You could have 5 hours discussion on it. I think he's done a good job for Tottenham. Would I love someone to come in and spend a load of money on the team? Yes, but I also think careful what you wish for at the moment. I don't know. Honestly, the real answer is I don't know where I stand, because I think we're in a good place. I think we could be in a better place, but I also think over time, we've not won a trophy. We've not done this. Look at Villa, relegated. Look at Newcastle, relegated. Everton, done absolutely nothing. Those are the clubs we were competing with when Daniel Levy took over. We have moved on from those teams, astronomically better than those clubs now. Newcastle have suddenly found some horrible money, and good luck to them, whatever. Do I want that? I don't think I do. I don't think I do, but I probably wouldn't mind someone coming in and spending a bit more money. But I wouldn't have an issue with Levy still running the business side of the club. All these things that people knock him for, the Beyonce stuff, that's important stuff now. It is important stuff. People laughing at the F1 thing today. That's the way this club is now, and I think that's important. Yeah, we could spend more money, but I'm not sure I want it to be dirty money, if you know what I mean.
I think there's an argument that a lot of people with money, billionaires, people with huge amounts of money, all somehow connected to some sort of dodgy dealings, so to speak. Even I think it was Joe Lewis was reported to have been investigated by the FBI for some dodgy stuff in South America. So, no one's ever clean. No one's ever clean with that much money.
But even when I say careful what you wish for, look at Todd Bowley. We don't know how Chelsea are going to go in the next 2-3 years. Come in, spend 500 million quid, and it's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess. The manager didn't want half of these players. So you've got to be careful now. We'd love to. If we'd spent 500 million, I reckon 75% of our fans would be going, "Oh, this is great, amazing. We signed this one, we signed that one." Doesn't always work. As I say, Chelsea may work.
Ndombele and Lo Celso.
Well, didn't Ndombele and Lo Celso? We spent a lot of money.
100 million. 100 million.
100 million players that we've had to fucking loan out. We're still paying big wages for. What do they say? 50%?
We're all delighted. 60 million in Ndombele. Wonderful.
50% of transfers.
Rather spend 3.5 million on Mitoma. I know different positions, but the point is,
if you don't scout properly, it doesn't matter how much money. Look at Brighton have signed, you say, Mitoma. Arsenal spent a lot of money, but they've bought the right players. It's all about signing the right players. I think we could improve our scouting network and the players that we buy. Doesn't matter how much money you've got if you're buying shit.
I think that there's another factor to this, and the F1 thing today is pertinent to it, which is UEFA are, I think, moving towards the right model with financial sustainability over financial fair play. And there are a couple of key things within that. One is 70% of revenue maximum can be spent on wages and transfer fees and agency fees. And on the other big factor to it is really scrutinizing commercial deals that are made. And that's clearly aimed at the likes of City and so on. And so what it means is you can get a billionaire come into the club, but ultimately, if the club isn't self-generating that money, then it doesn't matter how much money the billionaire wants to put in. UEFA ain't going to let him do it. So the question with Daniel Levy now is, you can see all the reasons why he's bringing in these revenue streams and increasing the revenue, because it gives us more headroom and it makes us more competitive. If at the beginning of today we had 100 million revenue and at the end of today we've got 110, well, actually, we can spend another 7 million on wage and transfers. I'm talking small money just to make it easy, right? But that's the idea behind the concerts, behind the multi-revenue stadium that people say, it's no longer a football club. This is what football is now. It's about generating revenue to become self-sustaining. And unfortunately, I think Newcastle might have, the horse might have bolted for them. We're all worried about them, and they're going to be better than they were because they will spend more money. But until they start generating that revenue, if UEFA implement this correctly and are stringent on it, then actually clubs like Tottenham should come out in a much better position. And all Daniel Levy has to do at that point is go, do you know what? Instead of 45% going towards transfers and wages, we'll make it 60%. Fuck me, with how much we're bringing in, that's not a 15% increase. It's actually much larger with the revenue we're bringing in, and it takes us from there to there. It is on. I think the club's being run in the right way. If UEFA are strong on financial sustainability, we're in a really good place, and we can capitalise. I hope Levy does it, or whoever comes in, because ultimately, it's not about billionaire coming in anymore. It's about somebody who understands finance and is prepared to put the 70% in. Let's put that 70% in. Let's maximize that, and let's do it the right way with the right scouting, the right players, not just some sexy 70 million player because they cost 70 million. Actually, if they're 70 million and they're the right player, great. If they're 3 million and they're the right player, great. Don't matter. Let's get the players right, but let's spend that 70%. Let's make sure we do that.
I mean, guys, look, Friday makes a good point here. It's not just about huge transfer fees. Look at what Newcastle has spent. I mean, arguably, they've spent quite wisely with their money. They've
spent 300 million. They've spent 300 million in 18 months.
I
was shocked by that as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, but
that's true.
Where they were sitting, they've made all the upgrades that they needed to. They haven't spent. I mean, look, they haven't bought a player for like 90 million, 100 million pounds. I think the most expensive player they bought was Alexander Isak.
It's been injured.
But they've done some good business. They bought Botman. They bought quite a few players.
But imagine if we'd have bought Dan Burn and played him at left back. Can you imagine the uproar amongst our fans? Can you imagine that? And yet, and yet the geezer's doing a fucking job there, right? So it's about, you know, the fans have got to take a step back and you know, understand that if you're buying a Dan Burn at left back, it's because the management and coach at the time believe that the guy can do the job.
I'm reading this Friday's comments. I get it's an opinion, but it seems like Friday just wants someone to come in and chuck a load of money at it.
But as I'm saying, that can't happen anymore. It can't happen. Clubs will get penalised for it if it goes beyond their revenue.
My thing is that I agree that I'm not against the concerts, by the way, and the F1, because I'll be the first one doing go-karts.
I'll be doing go-karting.
I'll be go-karting, and I'll be going to the cinemas afterwards, yeah?
I've done the Skywalk. I want to do the abseil. I'm all about
I'll
that.
do it all. I'm
going to go for an extreme sports day at the stadium.
So, like I said, Levy has, like, from where the club was when he bought it from Sugar, he has, like, no undeniable what he's done for the club. And I'm not someone that is aggressive and saying, oh, he needs to get out, or we need to spend 100 million. I'm just saying, thank you for what you've done. I like the way you've done it. But now it's time to hand the baton over.
I think I don't disagree, but it's probably the right person.
But for me, like, the way football is, like, Qatar is a big example. Like, if you think that UEFA are going to stick to their guns and be squeaky clean, I'm not too sure, because the way FIFA, that's the concern for me. FIFA have been so corrupt. Football right now, the sports washing is crazy. Newcastle fans were the same when they were getting taken over by oil money. Oh, we don't want this oil money.
What are you talking about? Infantino's a migrant worker. He's a guitar. What are you talking about? He's heard his speech at the World Cup. He's on there. He's on board.
But basically, what the point I'm making is, as soon as that oil money started coming in, and he started getting the right players, and he started moving up the table, that was a distant memory. Football fans are fickle, because at the end of the day, you want your teams to do well. It's a tribal mentality, because, you know, you want to do one better than your rival, your fellow mate, or Arsenal down the road. You want to, like, rub it in their face and all of that kind of stuff. But the point is, I think personally, the F1, going back to the question, the F1 now seems like a legit takeover. You know, the what was it? The takeover from the F1 owner, McLaren. I can't remember his name. The McLaren guy. I know McLaren have been underperforming, but I feel like that wasn't a genuine buy. Now that we hear that, you know, we're gonna have this 15-year deal with F1. I think that was like a genuine takeover, and I think they have been genuine takeovers. Like the Qatari group, part of them wanted to get a small percentage of the club, and that was their way to start the process. But I think my only thing is, Levy wants to be in control, and I just feel like with him, he doesn't want to let go, if that makes sense. Which I understand. I think it's like his baby. When he was doing the stadium, he sounds a bit like Conte, very like controlling, and he's very like with the details. Now I want it this here, I want the sound here, we're going to put the pitch underneath. I think he had a lot to do and a lot to say, and I felt like even this transfer window, when it came to, like, let's talk about Richarlison, like, he sat down with Kevin Bates. Was it Kevin Bates, the owner of Everton? He sat down with their chairman, and
Ken Bates.
Ken Bates, sorry, not Kevin Bates. Ken Bates.
No, Ken Bates was
not Charles, not Ken Bates, but I know, you know what I mean.
Bill Kenwright, Everton.
Bill Kenwright. Sorry. I'm thinking about ex-Chelsea. Anyway. So yeah, he sat down with him, negotiated that deal, and I thought that Levy's new role was to not have his hands on the football side of things, but outside of the football things, and keep it commercial. And he was going to leave all the transfer dealings to Paratici. So when I heard about the Richarlison deal and he was in control of it, I was a bit bemused. I thought he was being less controlling now. I thought he was letting the reins go, and he was going to trust his footballing scouting team. And then I heard about the Jed Spence as well. Jed Spence, like, apparently he was like a family friend, and that's the reason why he got involved, like, apparently. So I thought this guy wasn't getting involved into the football matters, but again, he's involved again. And I just feel like it's a constant theme. It'll be interesting to see what happens this summer, because even this January window, like, Porro deal wasn't going to happen, it wasn't going to happen, and then all of a sudden oh, Levy's getting
The
involved.
knight in shining armor riding in.
Exactly. So do you see what I'm trying to say with this? I feel like he's a bit of a control. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not flying the wall. But from the outside in, it looks like he finds it hard to let go.
Yeah.
And even if there is a takeover,
He'll still be
he
involved.
wants to be involved.
He'll
Do you
be
understand
involved.
what I'm saying? Yeah, definitely.
I
So
don't really blame him.
know if the transfer policy and the way we go about business will change that much.
Right.
If we'll be able to get it for, because our problem of in the past is that we weren't going after targets, our main targets, and finishing them. A bit like the trophies, like we're getting into finals and not quite getting over the line. So that's why I felt with Levy, I just felt like I couldn't really see things changing. My hope was that he would finally, because I thought that his goal was to get Spurs into top four, you know, from where we were to get Spurs to top four and then sell it. That's what I thought. And then we got top four with Harry Redknapp, and I was like, hang on, he's still there. And then obviously I heard about the stadium. And then after the stadium, I was like, oh, maybe he might go after that because he's done his work. And now, but I feel like he wants all of the accolades. He wants all of the success to say, like, yes, it was me. I'm the reason why Tottenham was successful. And he ain't going nowhere until that's achieved. Like, it's almost like having
so that means he's got to win the league.
Yeah, he's, oh boy. So, yeah, I mean, it's been 22.
That's
23.
what he wants. Go and do it.
No, but I mean, like, but will he achieve that? Because I'm saying, like, he's so frugal and he's so, like, he doesn't really. I know it's been in some points it's worked for us, but some points it's been to our detriment that we haven't. Because other clubs, they don't care if they get it wrong; they just keep going. Like Man United has spent big and bad and wrong, but guess what? They just keep going until they get it right. Now look at them; they're looking proper. Do you understand? I know it's not our model.
It's coaching. It also comes down to coach.
No, I agree. Facts. I've even said this on another show. I said, like, if you look at Barcelona, if you look at Man City, Man City looked at Barcelona's. Actually, it was even Dortmund that first started it. But Man City took what's his name? Tiki Taka. I can't remember his name. Taka. I can't remember the guy's name.
Bergistan.
Yeah, him. They took him from, and 2012. They took him, and they said, right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a head of scout chief. And whatever players we bring in, it's going to be this style of play. So Pep is in. So even if we get rid of Pep, they're still going to have the transfer policy is going to look for this particular player and this particular style of footballer, regardless if Pep is here or not.
Same system.
It's the same system. Thank you. Now you're with me. Right. So now you see what Brighton are doing. And you're seeing what Man City are doing, and like Chelsea got like obviously the best academies, but they're not using them, which is crazy in my opinion. I don't know what they did with that. They kind of abandoned their mission statement. But my point is that it doesn't matter who we bring in. We should have a star, and I thought that's the reason why we brought Paratici in. Is that this is now our star moving forward. So even regardless if Conte's there, whatever manager we bring in afterwards. The scout is there, the chief scout's there, the manager's there, and he's going to bring in that style of player. It doesn't matter how much that player costs, if that's the right profile player. And to be fair, since Paratici's been in, I can't really criticize his signings. Maybe one or two like Brian Hills haven't quite worked out. I think he needs more time, to be honest. But you look at Kulusevski, you look at Bentancur, you look at Romero. We're looking at that new left wing, Royale, the left wing back we're getting. It's not Doji, sorry. Porro's not looking. I know Porro hasn't had many games to start. We haven't seen a lot of him, but off the back of how he played at Sporting against us, he looks like he's going to be a decent player.
He brought in Sarr.
So he brought in Sarr. Sarr's really good. So I really like Sarr. So it's looking, and they're all young. It's not like we're going for like Ashley Youngs or old players. Like, do you know what I mean? Well, I do understand. Like, it's a time for the here and now, but it's also a player that's ready now. And I like when Conte was saying we need players that are ready now. They can be young, but they need to be ready now because we need someone that can fit into them. And I just want that to stay true. I don't want us to deviate from that particular model if that's going to be us moving forward. So whoever's in charge, whether it be Levy or not, because I don't think Levy's going to move, I just hope that they fully back the manager like they're backing Ten Hag. Because Ten Hag, if he came to Tottenham, he's not getting backed the way he was getting backed at United. That's all I ask. That's all I want. Just proper backing. Just go for your number one target. If it's a centre back, we don't get number one, get number two. Because remember, we wanted Bastoni and Gavodio was number two. If we didn't get Bastoni, just get Gavodio. cool. I'm cool with that. Gvardio's all right. Do you know what I'm saying? I know the money was
But
a big asking price.
neither of them moved last summer. So it's not like
Yeah, I know.
they
But
went
I'm just
elsewhere.
saying I know that's true. But I'm just saying, for example, we just need to go like I just hope moving forward that we just go for our number one targets and we're not being frugal and we're going for like.
And you want to do everything that you can to get those targets, but
I'm just saying like, for example,
doesn't work. Right?
No, but I'm just saying, for example, like Mourinho. Mourinho got the centre back of Rodon, like for example, and we could have got Kim and Jay. So that's the type of stuff. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. I like Kim and Jay is really good, and we went for Rodon.
We asked for Fernandez, and we got Jedson instead.
That's what I'm saying. So
there's more to that than that, and that's not.
I can list so many points, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. But look, the bottom line is my take on it is that it's been we're entering the 23rd year since they've been in charge, and we've won a single trophy in that time. Now, I'm not saying we're entitled to win trophies. There's 19 other clubs in the league. There's more clubs in the lower leagues as well. We're not entitled to win trophies, but the way that we've been set up and with all the investments we've made in our world-class structure, in our world-class training facilities, the fact that we've had the best striker in the Premier League for the last 7 seasons or so, sprinkled with a bit of Sonny and a few other players, I think we do deserve some sort of success in terms of trophies. Don't get me wrong, we've been in finals, we've had our chances to win stuff, but ultimately, I think at the right times we haven't sort of pushed on. We haven't seen us strike at the right time to get us over the line. If you look at the likes of Liverpool. After the Champions League final, I believe they went out and they won the league the following season. So it's those key moments you need to sort of get right, and I just feel like we've always fallen short. We've always fallen short before we could sort of make signings or anything else. We went through 2 windows without signing anyone. We got to a final and sacked our manager 5 days beforehand. I know, Johnny, you're probably going to say there's more to it than that, but
no, I don't know.
On paper, it seems,
it's bizarre.
What's going on? Poch said at the time, it's his words. The house needs furniture. It's empty. We need the painful rebuild. Ultimately, he saw that the team was, getting stale. And it proved to be that way, when he got the sack. We were 14th, languishing. And, these are the key moments that I'm talking about, where we could have backed Poch to say, look, we're going to give you the players that you need. What do you need to reinvigorate this squad? We didn't. We hired
on Belly and the Celso. We come back to that. But the 2 windows were shit. Those are the absolute. That's just the worst thing that's ever happened to this fucking club. Not signing anyone in those 2 windows. Don't know why. No one would ever probably know why.
But again, Johnny, that's on the board though, isn't it? Because it all comes from the person who signs a check, i.e. Levy, in our case, is the one who makes those decisions. Are we going to sign anyone? No. Okay.
That was ridiculous.
Poch has to then come out and say he can't say I wanted to buy someone, but Levy didn't allow me. He had to come out and say, well, we don't need anyone. And that's the bottom line to it. But look, we're not saying, we want to, get owners in that are going to, just absolutely rinse £100 million on every player. We just want to be in a position where it won't be an issue if you need to go out and buy a right back for 40 million.
Bro, we used to finish above Liverpool so much. Much. This is the thing. I can't believe Liverpool just jumped over us. But we
used to finish behind Villa, Everton, and Newcastle. There's a balance. I feel like it could have gone either way. And
Liverpool in reality should be ahead of us. They are because they're an enormous club. Historically, they're an enormous club. We were ahead of them for a period of time. The fact that they are now ahead of us, I think is that will be cyclical as it is at the minute. Like, we're ahead of them at the minute. Okay, we're better than them right now, and they've got a big painful rebuild as well. Massively. And they're having to spend a lot of money. But I think you know, if we do look at where we came from, it was battling against, and in comparison to the likes of Everton, Villa, and this and that. I don't think it's undeniable that we have progressed and we have gone up. Everybody feels the pain of the trophies. Everybody wants that success. Everybody wants Levy to go that extra mile and go and get that player and do that a little bit more. I feel like when it comes to a new owner, I don't know, like we've still got to work within the confines of what the club generates as revenue. Is another owner going to maximise that to the 70% that UEFA allow? And I know what you're saying, Ash, about, you know, UEFA are going to be dirty in that, and there's probably going to be some clever club that finds a way around it and all of that shit. But the idea is that we are generating more and more and more money to give us that more headspace to have the capability to go and do that. If we get somebody in that does push it to the limits of everything that we can spend, I think we're really well set up. Off the back of what Levy has built, we're really well set up to go and capitalise and take that final step, which is the hardest step. So look, I think you've got to give Levy credit for the good things that he's done. There's also been a load of shit, them 2 transfer windows, sacking Yol at half time, coming back from COVID. I was sat, you know, that against Villa, got a ticket, and we're set up in the fucking gods. Our first game back after COVID. Arsenal was the first game back, but I got the ticket for the Villa game. I sat right up at the back of the stand. Come on, man, remove those banners. Let the fans sit down there. You know, like the furlough shit. There's so much stuff that you can criticise Levy for. Sherwood being at the club, whispering poison into his ear for fucking years, right? You know, all of this shit is stuff that.
Well, the European Super League as well. You can throw into that mix.
A rock and a hard place. If you're given the opportunity to be in it and he says no, and it happens, and then we're left behind, then what? Yeah. Like,
European Super League was a horrible thing. It was a horrible thing, but like a fucking awful thing. But like he says, what happens if it run and we're outside of it?
And then it emerged that actually we could have been in it. Like, what would fans be saying then? And the fact that we were invited to it, and everybody goes, well, Tottenham invited to it, they don't win trophies. Well, it's because of the club that he has built.
Let me ask you a question, Gaz. If we got into the European Super League, right? Let's just say it happened. We got into the European Super League and you got the best of the best in Europe, okay? All these clubs are buying amazing players, spending 40, 50, 60, whatever it is. They're spending shitloads of money on players to compete in this league. Do you reckon Levy would change his stance on?
I don't know because you're talking about a completely. It's a hypothetical, isn't it? I don't know what that looks like by way of revenue.
I'm just trying to correlate his business.
I imagine at the point of a European Super League, UEFA no longer have control because we're outside of UEFA, and at that point, you're looking at somebody like QSI to come in and drop billions on it, and at that point, we're all going, "Fucking come in, like, come on! If we're going to do it, let's do it bigger, dirtier, and worse than everybody else, and fucking go and do it, right?" The only reason I don't really want, there's a part of me that kind of is desperate for QSI to come in and go, do you know what, let's just spend billions and let's blow City out of the water. Let's blow them all out of the water because fuck them. If you can't beat them, join them and do it bigger and better, right? And I want that success. There's a big part of it. I can't give a fuck where the money comes from, right? I just want success. At the same time, the European Super League hasn't happened. UEFA are looking at the likes of City and Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain going, we don't like this. We don't like these clubs that look like they could monopolise the way the game's going. So we're going to try and rein it in. And also for the betterment of football, financial sustainability, I think does have a lot of plausibility and credibility to it for the betterment of the game as a whole. And if it is applied, then it doesn't matter if you're owned by QSI or not. It's a question of how much does your club generate and how much of that, up to that 70% limit, are you willing to spend? And that's why he's setting the club up in the way that he is, because I think he hopes that it is implemented properly and then we become very, very competitive, like really competitive. But it's still got to be done the right way.
I think this is what Ash was saying, though, earlier on. I go back to his comment about thank you, but it's time to hand the keys over now, because the way we have been set up now, you know, okay, I'll give Levy credit. I'll give Levy credit for building the stadium, okay, the training facilities, everything else, brilliant. But we are set up at the moment to be able to generate that money to be within the threshold that whatever UEFA might set, or whatever whoever the governing body is might set. Okay, so we've got all that in place now. We just need someone to come in that's like, right, this club has been starved of success. I'm coming in and I'm going to do whatever it takes or whatever I can to bring success to this club. We've got a world-class stadium. We've got world-class training facilities. This stadium on its own will generate enough money to be within those confines. But we're going to go out and we're going to buy, the players that the manager wants. Yep, we'll get them in. We'll buy world-class, medical facilities, chief medical scouts or whatever you want to call them. We'll get them all in, just so that the club can start running in a certain way. Because at the moment, I just feel even down to medical staff, we just can't get things right. Conte himself come out and said there's no communication between the medical staff or between anyone else at the club. There's deeper problems than just buying players and stuff. It's deeply rooted. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be sorted out. But
I think that's the nature of him as well. How Levy is, he's quite withdrawn, quite quiet. Not people know a lot about him. So I do feel that there is a communication kind of distance in the club in certain areas. And that I remember when Klopp first came, he said the players never used to speak to the cooking staff, the people that prepare their meals. And he said he had to change the whole culture of the club. He wanted communication throughout the club, everyone talking. It doesn't matter if you're the cleaner, if you're the cook, if you're the ball boy, he wants everyone. And I kind of liked when Conte brought that up as well. Just to echo what you were saying, Has. But yeah, I just feel like he's kind of airing out problems that we might not have never known that was going to be a potential issue. And it could be other managers could be walking into a certain issue and we're like, it doesn't matter how we've had Mourinho, how we had Conte, two of the most decorated, or say some people would say two of the most decorated managers football has ever seen. They've come to Spurs and failed. How? What is the common denominator? What is stopping Spurs from getting over that line? What is it? You have to start to question.
Well, we don't have the money. We don't have the money.
And why don't we have the money? And so it's just like, because Joe Lewis
companies have more money than others.
No, but Joe Lewis is meant to be a billionaire. So you start to.
The problem when I have these discussions is none of us really know what goes on. We can all have our opinion and we can decide. Ultimately, it's what goes on the fucking pitch. Hopefully, we beat Sheffield United tomorrow, and that's the start of us being 3 games from winning a fucking trophy for the first time.
Yeah, correct.
Which brings us to our last segment. Moving on from the takeover rumours, we could go on about that all night long, but I do realise we are coming to the 3-hour mark now, so we are going to wrap up pretty soon. But predictions for March. So we've got I'll make it 5 games in March. All kicks off with Sheffield United tomorrow away. It's not going to be an easy one in FA Cup. Followed by Wolves, a massive game against AC Milan at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then we have got Nottingham Forest at home and Southampton away. On paper, you look at that, you think in the league, possibly 9 out of 9, considering the form that we're in at the moment, 9 points out of 9 is achievable. I'd expect a minimum of 7 from those games, if I'm being honest with you. From Wolves away, always a tricky game. They've got a new manager in Lopetegui who likes to play attacking football. He's brought in the likes of Sarabia.
He's a good player.
And Mateus Cunha, absolutely, on their day, they're a match for anyone. And then we've got Tottenham in the league, Nottingham Forest in the league after that. At home, you'd expect 3 points against Nottingham Forest. And Southampton, now look, this is the potential banana skin for me in the league is Southampton, because as woeful as they are, they're fighting for their lives at the moment, and there's a real possibility that they could go down end of the season. So potentially a trickier one there as well. I mean, we already touched on Inter Milan. I'm not going to go into that one again. And we've given our predictions for Sheffield United as well. So I'll stick to the 3 Premier League games this month coming up. How do we see them going? I'll start with Gaz. You're looking like you're still thinking about it.
No,
That's a lovely prediction. Go on, girls.
no.
Go on, girls.
I'm looking pained because this is when I mug myself off, and it's because it's when I go, do you know what? Fucking, we come back this month, right? Next month, and we're going to be, we're going to have done Sheffield United. We're going to have gone to Wolves and beaten them. We're going to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We're going to take 3 points out of Forest. We're going to take 3 points out of Southampton, because that's what should happen, right? That's what should happen, and I want to believe that is going to happen, because it can, and we're good enough, and it should happen. And we're going to come back in April, and you're going to go, you fucking idiot, Gaz. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's Tottenham, yeah. Like, what am I talking about? It's one of the months where it's so easy to mug yourself off. I'm looking at that. I'm going, come on now, come on, let's do this. There's nothing there to be afraid of. There's nothing there for us to be afraid of. In reality, I think you're right. I think if you take 7 points from 9. Fair fucks, you're all right. I see Wolves as the harder game than Southampton. But if you take 7 points from 9, you're all right. But I think if we're going to get into that top 4 and we're going to sort of give ourselves a bit of space, we've got to be taking 9 points out of them. We've got to be beating Sheffield United and getting into the quarterfinals. And we've got to turn up and do AC Milan. We're good enough. We're just good enough. We should do it.
We'll end up taking 7 points, but as Gaz said earlier, it'll be the wrong 7. We'll get like 3 from Wolves, 3 from Southampton, and 1 from Forest. The wrong way round.
Yeah, I mean, the term Spursy comes up in it. I mean, I don't want to use that terminology, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, I honestly think, because we're Spurs fans, we live in that kind of past. So that's the reason why we have these negative emotions, even when we have an easy draw or easy run. And there's no
City lost 4-1 to Leicester.
He's not even past.
It wasn't a pass. That was this month.
Well, you know what I mean. Put that aside, all right? Put that aside, because like I said before earlier in the show, we had Tanganga and Porro. Porro had never started in the Premier League. It's a completely different league, different speed, different pace, more aggression, physical. Even Casemiro came out and said today that this is the hardest league he's ever played in, and he's come from the Champions League winning title, La Liga winning sides. So for Porro to be thrown in against Leicester away, that was a real reality check that he had to face straight away, with Tanganga behind him. Didn't do him any favors. And with Dyer being there, the whole team, like I said, didn't really perform that game. So, but I just feel like this is the business end of the season. This is what we call the business end of the season. And all the players know it. And they're all professionals. And like, obviously, Kane is seasoned. Like our spine is seasoned. I know we're missing 1 or 2 players, but we're coming off the back of a good run, good form. And as players, you kind of need that confidence to take into your next game. You need that momentum. I feel like we've got that momentum shift. We've got that momentum swing. I think our squad's good enough. I think if we rotate properly and we get a good result at Bramall Lane, we can take that into Molineux. These aren't easy places to go to, but that's the reason why I'm confident that if we do get positive a result at Sheffield tomorrow, it's an FA Cup victory that we can use that to propel us with Wolves, and then even Milan. Milan could be a massive victory, like how we beat Marseille. That was a massive victory. That really helped us in our season on our conquest. And I just feel it's like small little key areas, not areas, but moments in the season that can help you finish where you need to be. And I think a strong FA Cup, a strong Champions League can help the league form and help us go towards a positive and strong March. Because I think if March goes right, we're going to go storming into April. We're going to get the business done. So I'm expecting... you know what? We might drop points. It could be against, like you said, Johnny, against Forest, the ones that you expect to win. But guess what? We're at home against Forest, so I expect us to win.
If we're living in the past, we always used to lose at home to Forest, so let's not live in the past.
Yeah, all right, cool. Forest are tricky. They do the upset, but I just feel like at home, I still think we'll do them.
Yeah.
I think Wolves is the hardest fixture for me. I know Southampton, like you said, when it's relegation, when it's teams fighting for every, like that performance they did against Chelsea, the way that they defended was just like incredible, like clearance off the line from Sterling and stuff like that. If they do that every week, they'll stay up, but they can't do that every week. And I think we'll be the team that takes advantage of that. So this is me. I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person through and through. So yeah, I'm going for maybe a drop of points against Wolves, but I think we're going to pick the rest of the wins up against Forest and Southampton, and I predict a Milan win as well, man. 2-0, I said before, so I'm going to stick with that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, here's hoping that a certain doctor doesn't show up during any one of those games, because we do have a habit of performing CPR on teams that are in dire need of points or a result. So here's hoping. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the show. It's been almost 3 hours, but gents, thank you very much for sticking around and keeping your eyes open. Johnny, I appreciate you. I've seen your eyes go a couple of times.
No.
He's quite late at the moment.
Checking my phone. Checking the scores from tonight on my phone.
Oh, before we go, I don't think we're far off. I'm just going to say, I'm going to end with that. I don't think we're far off the perfect team to push past top 4 and get into like third and second. Centre back. I think we're a centre back or 2 away, and maybe a playmaker
and a keeper.
Oh yeah, that's about saying.
What, for next season?
For next season, I don't think we're far off. I don't think we need to spend that much to get where we need to get to. I think we need quality.
I think there's like 4. Look, we have to throw a goalkeeper into that mix as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You need a couple of centre backs, definitely a playmaker, and another goalkeeper is 100% has to be one of our priorities next season, because I mean, as much as I love Lloris and love watching him at Spurs, I think
he's done.
That time is coming near now. So yeah, look, I mean, who knows? There's a long way to go till the end of the season. Let's see what happens, but yeah, we'll see. Thank you to everyone who's been in the chat, who's messaged us, who's taken part in the show today. As I said, it is the first show, and we will be broadcasting at the end of every month with different guests, possibly the same guest from tonight. And yeah, do click on the like button, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when we're next on. Gents, are you guys up to anything, and where can we catch you, if anything, if you've got anything lined up, Gaz?
You'll see me around on Twitter, usually arguing. That's about it.
Yeah,
Johnny? I'm going to the game tomorrow night, actually. So
yeah,
looking forward to that. Probably put a few boring photos on my Twitter feed and then have a whinge on the way home if we lose.
Why not? Yeah, and absolute credit to you and all the away fans this season have been absolutely fantastic. You know, the only thing that we could hear on TV most away games when it's been televised is our away fans. So fantastic. Big up to you guys. Ash, where can we catch you? I know you've been around on a few shows.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a whore.
Yes,
so you see me whoring around.
Shall I call you Jorge from now on?
Yeah, Alley Cat, yeah, whatever suits, whatever fits. Whoever will have me, to be fair, I'm just a fan. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm just expressing my thoughts, my ideologies, and I hope like Spurs can play in the right way. And that's it, man. You might see me in the gym if people want to see me in the gym, or you might see me in the club throwing it down. But yeah, apart from that, life is here to be lived, guys.
That's
Live
right.
your life. You get one life.
Yeah. I love that. I love that outlook on life. Brilliant. Right. Once again, thank you to everyone who's been in the chat. Shout out to Bobby K, Jay Ashraf, Hotspur 82, Danny Kiriakou, Tottenham Away, Friday, Phil P, Scarfy Spurs, everyone who's been on the chat and watched the stream today. Thank you very much. Make sure you tune into the next one, which is going to be end of March, and it's going to be hopefully a positive one with, like these gents have said, 9 points, hopefully, a win against AC Milan and a win against Southampton. But as always, we'll finish this off with Come On You Spurs, and hopefully a positive one next month. Come on.